रहा हूं। मेरा सदैव यही विश्वास रहा है कि एक सशक्त, समावेशी और दूरदर्शी शिक्षा व्यवस्था ही सशक्त राष्ट्र के आधारशिला होती है. And then he goes down. We are just going to scroll down and basically he talks about the fact of how the NEET UG की परीक्षा में सामने आई अनियमितता पाई गई. That is the irregularities which were found in the NEET UG exams of 3rd May 2026, and this was taken immediate cognizance of. The entire investigation was put to the CBI. CBI की जांच को सौंपा गया और परीक्षा को रद्द किया गया. So this is a computer-based test, the new mode which was brought in, and then he talks about the entire government approach. So basically what he's saying in this 2-page letter is the steps which have been taken by the government to ensure that there's a change in the examination system. No time was wasted, guilty were arrested, more steps are being taken. This is a 2-page letter which has been put out by Dharmendra Pradhan. Now Payal, everyone says that no one resigns, but look, would you say in the last 2 to 3 days, the timing is also very significant. Not just the CJP government talks, but also the big bill coming up on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to go across to Arunima. Would you say that the timing is significant, coming just a couple of hours, maybe an hour or so before the CJP government talks which were supposed to take place, but more importantly, the Monday morning possibility of the introduction of the big bill?
BJP government talks were supposed to be at 3 o'clock, but it has been delayed by at least an hour. And that's because CJP, even yesterday, when they left the Constitution Club, they made it a point to say that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is non-negotiable. And once they went back to Jantar Mantar, in repeated media and social media posts and interviews, they kept reiterating that there's no point talking to the government if they're not going to be flexible on the issue of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So this kind of a maximalist position that, the CJP had taken, that the student protesters had taken, I think that finally forced Dharmendra Pradhan's hand. He says it very categorically in that letter, ये मेरे व्यक्तिगत प्रतिष्ठा का सवाल नहीं है. This is not a question about my personal interest or my ego. It is about the larger interest of the student community. And if it is my resignation which is going to ensure that they go back to the classrooms, they go back to the university, then so be it. But the CJP also will have to now wait and see when they come back at 4 o'clock to the negotiating table with the government. Will they walk the talk and withdraw the protest? If they keep moving the goalpost, because yesterday they said we have 3 demands, 2 of which the government is very positive on. The third was Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So now that big, obstruction has been removed, will CJP walk the talk? Will we see an announcement from
Arunima, I'm sorry to interrupt you over here. We are getting the first Congress reaction. Rashid Alvi is now joining us on the phone line. Rashid, you finally have that resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, something which the Congress party was asking for. Your first reaction to that, and second, अब House chalega? Will you have a discussion on the bill at least to be passed?
As far as your first question is concerned, we knew it very well because Bharatiya Janata Party government is in habit to act under pressure. We have been demanding, youngsters also demanding. That is the reason under pressure, entire government has bowed before all of us. So it is all right. He was absolutely incompetent HRD minister. And even earlier, you remember, I am sure, that undergraduate lady was appointed as HRD minister. Because this BJP government has no foresighted, no concern with the people, no concern for the students, no concern for education. But anyhow, under pressure, they have taken the right decision. But I have already given a statement that BJP will take final decision only when they would have lost everything. As far as your second question is concerned, there are so many issues. It is not the only issue. We have to talk about Ram Mandir Chori. We have to
Rashid Alvi, the Monday ki khabar is going to be about the bill. I'm going to come back to you, but thank you so much for giving your first reaction. We also have Aman, we also have Simran, but I'm going to go across to Mr. IP Singh of the Samajwadi Party, who's now joining us. IP Singh ji, shuru se aap logon ki maang yahi rahi hai that we want the Education Minister to resign. This government is arrogant. That's the words you people have used. But now I'm sure you've gone through a 2-page letter. Are you satisfied that Dharmendra Pradhan as an Education Minister has stepped down? Now what?
देखिए, इससे ज्यादा 20 से ज्यादा छात्रों ने आत्महत्या कर ली। आपने दिल्ली को लहूलुहान कर दिया, हमारी बेटियों के ऊपर लाठीचार्ज किया, हमारी बहनों के ऊपर चार्ज किया। लाखों बच्चे आज दिल्ली में है, संसद ठप पड़ी है, दिल्ली ठप पड़ा, पूरा देश ठप पड़ा है। देश के इतिहास में मेरे अपने जीवन में कभी इतना बड़ा आंदोलन नहीं हुआ। धर्मेंद्र प्रधान किस खेत की मूली है? प्रधानमंत्री और गृह मंत्री को इस्तीफा देना होगा। इससे पीछे देश की जनता हटने को तैयार नहीं है और देश इंतजार कर रहा है कि 77 वर्ष के बुजुर्ग प्रधानमंत्री इस्तीफा दें। इससे कम पर युवाओं को और देश की जनता को मंजूर नहीं है। प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी इस्तीफा दें।
ओके वो तो बात की बात है। पहले तो हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं इस बात पे कि यू वांटेड द शिक्षा मंत्री और द एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर टू रिजाइन, उन्होंने इस्तीफा दे दिया। मैं इसके पहले मैं आपको और सवाल लूँ। सबसे पहले आप ये बताना चाहेंगे, क्या अब आप संसद को चलने देंगे? सोमवार को जब ये बिल पेश किया जाएगा, क्या आप उसको पारित होने देंगे?
सवाल ही नहीं होता कि संसद चलेगी। सवाल ही नहीं होता कि प्रधानमंत्री अपनी कुर्सी पर बैठे रहेंगे।
अब इतने दिन से आप लोग यही कह रहे थे कि जब तक वो इस्तीफा नहीं देंगे हम संसद नहीं चलने देंगे। अब इस्तीफा दे दिया तो अब आप अपने गोल पोस्ट बदल रहे हैं।
प्रधानमंत्री जी ही जिम्मेदार हैं। देश की अराजकता, देश की बेरोजगारी, देश की महंगाई और देश में बढ़ते अराजकता के लिए वो स्वयं जिम्मेदार है। गृह मंत्री जिम्मेदार है। प्रधानमंत्री को इस्तीफा देना होगा। देश के लोकतंत्र को जड़ से उन्होंने खोखला किया, खत्म करने का काम किया और देश को गिरवी बनाने का, संसद को गिरवी बनाने का काम किया। इसलिए देश प्रधानमंत्री का इस्तीफा चाहता, उससे पीछे देश हटने को तैयार नहीं है। तो देश का युवा का न विपक्ष हटने को तैयार है।
ठीक है, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर स्पीकिंग टू अस, मिस्टर IP Singh of the Samajwadi Party. Well, changing the goalpost, not satisfied with just a resignation in the education minister, also wants the prime minister and the home minister to resign. Well, Aman is now joining us from the newsroom. Aman, just do a recap, and I'm sure you must have gone through a copy of this 2-page letter which we put out. Very emotive statements. He talks about all the changes which his government has tried to make as far as the paper leak or the NEET and all of that has come. But the timing, would you say, is very, very significant? The talks which were supposed to take place at 3 has been repeatedly deferred. Then the Monday, the big bill comes up. And the students should be pacified by now. What do you think is a big message coming in from the Prime Minister and from the government on this?
This government, earlier also we have seen, never has been a fan of getting minister resignations due to political pressure. But I think one thing in this case is very clear, that the government also realized that this is an organic protest. This is a protest where students are extremely angry and upset over the paper leaks. And we saw that when the meeting happened yesterday with the CJP also, when the two senior government ministers met them, the topmost demand of the CJP also was that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. That has been the demand of the politicians also, the opposition, Rahul Gandhi and others inside parliament. But I think the government is more concerned about the demand of the original stakeholders of this protest, which is the CJP, which is the two representatives of the CJP who met the two ministers yesterday. Yesterday, it was made very clear by the ministers, and Saurav Das said the same, that when they pressed for the demand of resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, the ministers were very clear that we can't decide this, but we'll get back to you within 24 hours on this particular issue. And now, within 24 hours, we see Dharmendra Pradhan himself releasing this letter saying that he's stepping down. Very interesting comments in Dharmendra Pradhan's letter. Pallavi, I'll read that out. He's saying that the last 10-day events have really pained me. It is not about my personal pride. That's what Dharmendra Pradhan is saying. He's saying India's youth is our real strength. He's also saying, I have sent my resignation to the Prime Minister. Anti-national elements, Pallavi, Dharmendra Pradhan is saying, should not take advantage of the situation at Jantar Mantar. He's very clearly saying no student's future should be caught in these legal tangles, FIRs happening, violence happening. He does not want that. He actually wants the students to go back to the colleges and universities and focus on their studies. He say my 4-decade-long political career has been devoted to the field of education. I did my best. Yes, there were discrepancies in the NEET paper leak case, but we ensured a re-NEET exam in the shortest possible time. But now, since this events at Jantar Mantar, he's saying that anti-national elements are trying to take advantage of this protest and, misleading the students, misguiding the students. And if that is the demand of the students, and we saw that yesterday in the CJP's meeting, Dharmendra Pradhan himself has chosen to step down. Pallavi, I feel that this could have a very positive impact in a way of dealing with this protest. Maybe that is what the CJP's main demand. The other two demands, Pallavi, which they had, that 1 crore compensation for the families of the NEET victims, or be it the other one where there should be a public apology, cases should be withdrawn. The government is already very positive on it. This particular demand was the sticking point, and I think the government, by Mr. Pradhan resigning, that particular sticking point has now been removed.
Okay, we also are being joined by special guests this afternoon, Mr. R. Rajgopalan and also Mr. N.K. Vishnu from the Congress Party. I'm going to come to you, Rajgopalan ji, in a bit, but Mr. Vishnu ji, are you now satisfied? Because this is exactly what you have been asking for. But your own colleague seems to be changing the goalpost. The PM also has to go and the ACM is also go. That doesn't seem that you were concerned really about the students' protest. You seem to be just now baying for that kind of a blood, one resignation another. But for a start, the fact that the Education Minister has stepped down, would you say that's a big step forward as far as the government's messaging is concerned?
See, you cannot equate the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan with the loss of life of the innocent students and the future of the many million students.
Okay.
But the point is, these students who are in the Jantar Mantar asking for resignation and so many demands regarding the paper NEET leak. It took almost a month for them to realize. And the precipitating factor is our leader. We all went and staged a dharna in front of Prime Minister's office. Then that is the tip of the iceberg. And now our three demands are, one demand is a Dharmendra Pradhan resignation, which happened today, which we welcome it. At the same time, we should have accountability in the system. As far as the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister should come and apologize to the students. These are the three demands of which one is met and the rest of the two is on the pipeline, I hope so. But at least there is some change in the view they are looking at the people. From the government point of view, the view they were having earlier has now changed, which I'm very happy about it. But this is not enough. The students' lives is important. Their education career is important.
Yeah, but Mr. Bishop, for that, there are fast-track courts which have been announced. There's a bill which is going to come up on Monday, which has been announced. But that is what my next question to be. Now that you've got what you wanted in terms of the resignation of the Education Minister, come Monday, at least now you are going to go back and allow the House to run so that the bill can be passed ASAP?
Yeah, we are in the discussion and we'll let you know very soon that the High Command will take a call on that. But at the same time, I would like to point out one thing very clear. See, why this government is so insensitive about the students. They have to be on the road, fight for almost 1 month on the middle of the streets, leaving everything, sacrificing their, their future is at bleak. But still, now only after almost 1 month, this government is responding. This also, they should have an introspection about their career.
Okay. We'll come to that later. We will come to that later. For now, the big news. The big news broken first over here on CNN News 18 is the resignation of the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. We also have Simran with us. We have Payal Mehta. We have Aman. We have Arunima. But before that, I'm going to as journalist was that this is a different government. They don't come under pressure. They don't ask for a resignation of the ministers. Why was it different then? Why do you think that the government decided or the Prime Minister decided that it was time for the Education Ministers to step down?
Pallavi, before coming to that, I must congratulate you, Aman, Payal and others about the way in which you have treated this for the last 1 week. You and your team have been longing for in the rains and the sun, etc. It's a great victory for media men, second for the students. And where is Rahul Gandhi now? Why is he not reacting? It is 30 minutes now from that. Rahul Gandhi should not go to foreign country, you tell him.
He's here. I'm sure he'll react. Let's not talk about him now at this point in time.
It's a good riddance from the point of view of politics, and it has also created some amount of discomforts among the top ministers. Yesterday, when the cabinet meeting was there were 2 or 3 ministers who were murmuring. Now, Prime Minister has heard that. Prime Minister took a decision. Otherwise, Prime Minister led this from the front because the Instagram selfie, etc., that also made marks. It's a good riddance for the government. RSS pressure was also there on them. This morning, RSS chief also mentioned there should be negotiations. Now, at least tonight, Mr. Rahul Gandhi will not go to PM's house and stage a dharna in front of that.
Okay, Mr. Rajgopalan, you've spoken more about Rahul Gandhi and less about why do you think the government took this decision. I'm going to come back to you in a bit. I'm going to take in a quick word from my colleagues who are on the ground. There is Simran, who has been correct. Simran, you were in fact about to cover the CJP government talks which are going to take place. If you can give me a sense of the mood around you and the fact that the timing just ahead of the talks, and I don't even know whether those talks are going to take place now, because that was the only condition that they were laying for today. And if I'm not mistaken, you had also reported that yesterday the government had told them that we'll get back to you regarding the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan today. So do you think the talks are going to take place? Do you think it's going to change the dynamics now?
Well, there is less clarity at the moment because the developments have unfolded on if the talks are going to take place at the scheduled time, which has shifted from 3 p.m. to now 4 p.m. The talks were scheduled only to press over the largest or the most important non-negotiable demand of the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Now that it has happened, and what the reaction from the ground at Jantar Mantar is also coming is that they are going to take forward this entire fight against the educational reforms further. Abhijeet Dipke has said that this is just the starting. What they are going to start is with another revolution of with democracy is what their first comments have come for. But most importantly, what Abhijeet Dipke has said and the CJP has maintained through their official channels and through their official messaging platforms is that they are going to take forward with the 6 p.m. Candlelight march that they have decided earlier as well, and that they have not changed. They are going to take forward with that. They are going to protest with that even after the resignation has come in. Now, what is going to be the larger sense in which the protest is going to be carried forward by tomorrow or later or not, because there are already many security
Simran, I guess we'll have to wait for that.
Almost like 7 barricades that have been put in place.
Yes, Simran, we'll have to wait for that. I'm sorry, but I have to go across to Payal Mehta. Payal, you gave us a sneak peek and exclusive copy of the bill which is going to come up on Monday. But I really want to ask you the same question which I asked Mr. Rajgopalan. The perception was there that this government does not take any decision under pressure. The PM doesn't. Why do you think the government or the Prime Minister decided that Dharmendra Pradhan cannot continue as the Education Minister?
The streets, and the Prime Minister was extremely upset to see those scenarios really pan out as well. So despite that, the resignation demand has been there for quite some time, Pallavi, ever since that NEET re-examination had to take place. From that time, there's been building pressure on the Prime Minister to sack Dharmendra Pradhan, but you know, they've let the NEET re-examination really happen. They've come out successfully with the NEET re-examination. There have been multiple reform steps that have been there. In fact, yesterday in the cabinet also, Dharmendra Pradhan was one of those people who actually spoke on the new bill, which is coming up on Monday. But you know, probably at one point in time, the Prime Minister thought that it is important to send a message to the youth that we are not power hungry, we are not politically hungry. We are here for the welfare of the people and largely for the youth. So therefore, you know, just day before yesterday when the Prime Minister put out that tweet announcing the fast track court, the first sentence was very significant. Nothing is more important for my government and for us more than the welfare of the youth. So that's the message that's being sent. The Prime Minister, of course, trying to communicate with the Gen Z. That's the reason 2 back-to-back, video messages that he sent, or very, very Insta-friendly messages that he really sent. Those have, of course, gone viral. But like I said, that there are people, it's not just that political pressure was mounting. People from the streets were on the streets demanding his resignation, demanding that he be removed as well. We'll have to just wait and see how fast his resignation gets accepted. These are unprecedented situations, in the middle of the parliament session. The fact that the Rashtrapati just returned yesterday from an overseas trip, will it be an immediate acceptance of resignation? Who gets the portfolio? Because it's going to be a crown of thorns, whoever gets the portfolios, because there's so much that needs to be done and every action is going to be watched by the students alone in terms of what happens in the coming time.
And Payal, we are not going to hazard on guess on who's going to be the successor to Dharmendra Pradhan, because you never know. But whoever is going to be, you're absolutely right, will have to be someone who is going to face the biggest challenge ahead to win over the students. We've also got Anand Raghunathan joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much. Why do you think Dharmendra Pradhan resigned, and should he have resigned?
Hi, good afternoon, Pallavi, and good afternoon to my fellow panelists. Look, I think the day you had violent, illegal street protests and blockades and attacks and anarchy, the writing was on the wall. And the writing was, in fact, has been on the wall for the last 6 years, because remember the day the farm laws were repealed, the message went out that if you were to do the same thing, resort to anarchy and illegality, Modi would succumb. And that is exactly what has happened, because the exact same demands that these anarchists were making were made almost 3 months ago by, in fact, Modi voters. but the government completely ignored them. But now when you had illegal protests, when you had all the arson and attack and everything, that is when the government, so the message is Modi hears the street much more than he hears the genuine students.
Okay. I'm also being joined by Pushpendra Ji of the Samajwadi Party. But before I go across to you, quickly one word also coming in from Arunima. Arunima, that you were there yesterday when those talks were taking place between the CJP and the government, the CJP representatives. One demand which was pending of theirs was a resignation of the Education Minister. That has happened. What next?
So government sources are just confirming to CNN News 18 that talk from the government side is on schedule. Initially, it was supposed to be at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Then we were told that it was pushed back by an hour. And in the interim, Dharmendra Pradhan put it out on the public platform that he's stepping down from the union cabinet. So there was a doubt in the minds of the media that whether the government will now take a little more time before coming back to the negotiating table. Will the talks go on as scheduled? So government officials, government functionaries now confirming to CNN News 18 that from their side, the talks are very much on. They're hoping for a final breakthrough. Out of the three demands, the sticking point was Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. The other two, the government had come on the same page as the CJP. So today, as Dharmendra Pradhan has stepped down, when the talks happen, JP Nadda, Dr. Jitendra Singh and the two representatives from CJP, when they come sit face to face across the table, government is hoping for a big breakthrough, some assurance that the Jantar Mantar protest will now be withdrawn.
Okay, we're going to wait to see whether they are withdrawn. In fact, Jasmine is there at the spot. But before I go to you, Jasmine, before I go to you, Aman, before that, I'm going to go quickly across to Mr. Mohandas Pai, who's now joining us on the phone line. You know, Mr. Mohandas Pai, I was seeing everyone say that this government does not take a decision under pressure. Do you think there was substantial amount of pressure on the Prime Minister where he wanted to convey this message that sticking on to power was no longer an option? Showing our concern for the students was more important, and it is time also to move on and move ahead.
No, I agree with your assessment that the Prime Minister has stepped in and decided that, somebody has to be sacrificed to take out the anger. There's too much of anger. There's too much of frustration. And young people are very, very upset. What they think to be, bad treatment from the government. They think government is uncaring. They're not concerned about them. And the flashpoint has become Dharmendra Pradhan. So it's good to make a sacrifice at this point of time and relieve the pressure, relieve the anger, because what we need is a solution to the many issues that are affecting our young people. And these issues require discussion and settlement in the next maybe 1 or 2 months to show progress. There's deep pain among Gen Z about education, high cost of education, opportunities, jobs, etc. We need to address them on a war footing. And now having this sacrificing Dharmendra Pradhan and ask him to resign will hopefully, focus attention on solutions rather than allocating blame.
Okay. Mr. Mohandas Pai, I'm going to come back to you. In fact, all my colleagues in a bit. We have the first reaction coming in from the CJP. Saurav Das has just reacted. Let's listen to him first.
प्रशासन बहुत दुखद बात है, ये हम लोग एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे। इंटरनेट अगर ये कंटिन्यू रहेगा और युवाओं को डिटेन करते रहेंगे, इलीगल हम लोग पीसफुल मार्च निकालेंगे दिल्ली पुलिस हेडक्वार्टर के तरफ एंड वहाँ पे जाके पीसफुल धरना हम लोग देंगे। तो दिल्ली पुलिस से फिर से रिक्वेस्ट है कि ऐसा खाना पानी वंचित ना करे लोगों को, जो यहाँ पे आना चाह रहे उनको ना करे। इंटरनेट भी बंद किया जाएगा। देखिए इंटरनेट बंद कर दिया, मेट्रो स्टेशन बंद कर दिया, उसमें न्यूज़पेपर चिपका दिया। ये सब करने बहुत बचकानी बातें हैं। प्रशासन को इस किस्म से काम नहीं करना चाहिए। लोग तब भी हजारों की संख्या में यहाँ पे जुड़ रहे हैं, तो ये सब करने से कोई फायदा नहीं है। लोगों को खाना पानी एंड उनका मूवमेंट आप रोक नहीं सकते हो, असंवैधानिक है, इलीगल है। दिल्ली पुलिस इलीगल काम करना बंद कर दे, ये हमारा इमीडिएट डिमांड है। कितने बजे जाएंगे आप मीटिंग के लिए? जब बुलाएंगे, अभी वो एग्जैक्ट टाइम बताएंगे, फिर आएंगे।
So that's Saurav Das's first reaction, spokesperson of the CJP. I'm going to go to Jasmine. I'm going to come to you, Mr. Pushpendra Singh, in a short while from now. Bear with me. Aman, whoever takes on the position of Dharmendra Pradhan will have to face a huge challenge. What could be that challenge?
See, Pallavi, the government is already saying that it is putting systemic reforms in place so that the paper leak issue is settled once and for all, that there is no repeat of this particular matter. We have seen action in the NTA yesterday. We have seen the contours of this bill coming to light, which Payal brought to us earlier an hour back when we revealed the contours of this bill. Very, very stiff punishments, fast-track courts, charge sheets within 2 months, a trial within 3 months. So in less than 6 months, the government is saying if a paper leak happens, we'll put the people, we'll give justice to the victims, we'll put these culprits behind bars on heavy sentences. So I think the government is very, very clear that it wants to solve this issue once and for all through legal means. And the minister concerned, I think one concern also in the opposition ranks and also amongst the CJP was that this new bill, which the government is going to produce before the parliament on Monday, should not be presented by Dharmendra Pradhan. So there is also one concern which was coming. But clearly now, whoever the government chooses as the new HRD minister right now, as the new education minister rather, right now, the status is that Dharmendra Pradhan has submitted his resignation. So we should wait and see what the government finally says. Is the resignation accepted? We'll have to wait and see. But given the circumstances which we are seeing right now, and given that the CJP yesterday made this a non-negotiable top demand, it is expected that Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation could be accepted. There could be a new incumbent in that post. Who will that be? We don't know yet. But clearly, I think the government is more concerned about the system and the process rather than who will be the minister.
Okay.
Government wants to set the system right through this new amendment law which will be introduced in Parliament on Monday.
Okay, I'm going to quickly go across to Jasmine because she's my colleague who's very much on the ground. I'm going to come back to you, Pushpinder Singh. I'm really very sorry, but we have to get the ground voice first. Jasmine, the mood around you, very quickly, if you could recap for us.
So the mood around me, Pallavi ma'am, is right now the protesters, the people who have been here for over a month and specifically from 20th of July, the mood, the energy and the synergy is unparalleled right now. All of them are really happy that the thing that they were demanding and protesting for has finally been accepted. There was no public indication from the government's end that Dharmendra Pradhan will eventually be resigning. So people were wanting it, but they were not expecting it at this point. Okay. So currently with the resignation coming in, a lot of protesters are still developing and understanding that this has taken place and this has happened. So they're still processing and absorbing that the resignation that they have been demanding for over a month has come in now.
Pushpinder Singh ji, now you wanted, all of you, that we want the education minister to step down. Wo to ho gaya, he stepped down. Monday, bill in Lok Sabha likely, Tuesday, hopefully in Rajya Sabha, Tuesday, Wednesday, jab bhi. Will you let the house run now?
Yes, because we were demanding the resignation of the person who's been responsible for 90 plus paper leaks in the country. We've been asking for a resignation of the person who's been responsible for many students who've lost their lives due to paper leaks. So I think the bill that has come up, I've still not gone through it, but when we'll go through it and read it, it has to safeguard the interest of the students. If it is not in place, we'll discuss it heavily in Parliament, because as earlier as I was saying as well, that discussion in Parliament has to take place for policies. These demands, that 3 demands that the students are laid down, was simply for the government. They could have done it earlier, but it's their sheer arrogance. And I thank the students and every citizen of this country that arrogance is lost today. They have won. It is their win. It is a win for the students. It is a win for the people who lost their lives. It is a win for every citizen of this country.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Pushpinder Singh. I know I have to let you go, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. So at least you're promising that the House will run from Monday onwards. Payal, I remember you had reported this, that when that cabinet meeting took place yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, there were 2 people who were speaking. One was, of course, the Home Minister, and of course, the second, Dharmendra Pradhan. Very interesting and significant.
Yes, Dharmendra Pradhan in fact spoke on the history of the bill, on history of paper leaks as well. That is something which he presented before the cabinet yesterday. Of course, major talking as far as what this new bill is going to have was done by the Union Home Minister, but many within the cabinet rank did not think that this would be Dharmendra Pradhan's probably last cabinet meeting in the Modi government, because like I said, there is no clarity on whether his resignation has been accepted, and once his resignation is accepted, does he become a minister of another department, or does he go out of the cabinet? That clarity is still awaited. We'll have to wait to hear from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, but no doubt whatsoever, there was constant pressure mounting on Dharmendra Pradhan. Back-to-back issues that had happened, the UGC issue that happened, the NCERT textbook issue that happened, the CBS issue that happened. So obviously there was a lot of pressure mounting on Dharmendra Pradhan and his ministry over the last 6 months. So the writing pretty much on the wall, and the fact that the student movement took such a large impact in the national capital and across the country, probably there would have been a lot of thought that would have gone into it, and like I said, unprecedented. Absolutely. Very rarely would you have seen anybody resign in the middle of Parliament session, unless mandatory, and unless there are things which are beyond your control, like your health or anything else, or if you're no more. But beyond that, it's unthinkable that something like this could have really happened. But like I said, the interest of the students is paramount. That's something that the Prime Minister.
And also the interesting part over here, Payal, is no shifting of the portfolio, resignation. They didn't wait for a mini reshuffle to take place. But I'm just going to come back to you in a bit. Mr. Rajgopalan, I think MG Akbar was the last minister of this government, I mean, the Modi tenure, who had resigned, right? And in the UPA, we saw many of them, Shashi Tharoor, Pawan Bansal, Ashwini Kumar. It led to a weakening of the UPA. Would you say the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan will mean the unraveling of the NDA as the opposition hopes? Or the Prime Minister has stemmed this nick in time? Right on time, he's ensured that there is no unraveling taking place, perfect timing, and also try and win over the students. Mr. Rajgopalan, yeah. I think you're on mute.
It is a dent on the Prime Minister, definitely. It is a dent on the Prime Minister because students have won. Prime Minister saw that today's law and order situation, if the issue continues, tomorrow it will become headlines in the newspapers. Second thing, he also taken the importance of the FCRA bill and delimitation bill. These two are primarily for the Prime Minister, apart from Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan. Therefore, Prime Minister acted in the morning also there was a but it did not confirm. Prime Minister office told Mr. Pradhan to write this type of things. As Payal said, now we have to wait and watch. Now action will be on the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Whether Rashtrapati Bhavan communique will now come after some time or along with the person who is going to be the one. But finally, I tell you, yes, students have won. There is no reaction from the Congress in half an hour's time. Mr. Anand Ranganathan should also understand that this is a crisis for the opposition. Prime Minister came out of this situation very well. That is my
and public memory is pretty short, so people may move on. I'm going to come back to you, Nikhil, in a bit. Anand Ranganathan wants to make a point. Yes, go ahead. You're on mute. And you're on mute.
I'm not.
Yeah, now you're not. I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm saying the optics of this, I would have said, would have been disastrous for the government, but they have been disastrous for the last 4 or 5 years. And I explained why. Exactly as I said, all the demands were made by genuine students and their well-wishers, all of them who were Modi supporters and voters, much before the CJP came in. The government ignored them. Number two, when you talk about the fact that everything that Pradhan has done or overseen, all the irregularities have also been overseen by the Education Minister of AAP-controlled Punjab and Congress-controlled Karnataka. It is befuddling that the BJP has asked only Dharmendra Pradhan to resign, as has not demanded the resignation of the Harjot Singh and of Bangarappa, the education ministers, under which more paper leaks have happened. So, this is absolutely the wrong way of handling it. Pradhan should have resigned on day one.
Yes, that's my question I want to ask.
Modi was waiting for, and Modi always succumbs to street protests and violent protests. We've seen that in farm laws. We've seen that when the land acquisition bill was taken back. Anyone who comes down to streets illegally and the government asked to bend begins to crawl.
Nikhil, and I'm just agreeing with Mr. Ranganathan on this. The fact is that last time round when the farmers protested, eventually the government rolled back on the farm laws. Do you think the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan should have happened earlier? Or why even the resignation? Maybe if I had done it 2 months back, they could have done a quiet, small reshuffle where his portfolio could have been changed.
Pallavi, absolutely. That in any democratic, accountable government, the resignation of the education minister after a controversy like this should have happened many, many weeks ago. It should have happened in May. It has taken this long, but that is not something that's unexpected or surprising, because in 2016, Rajnath Singh made it very clear, is sarkar mein istife nahi hote. We are not going to resign under this government. Every other government in this country, whether a BJP government or a Congress or any other party, you've had resignations because ministers held to account, all the way from a Lal Bahadur Shastri to a Nitish Kumar, to the Sushil Kumar Shinde, to a Shashi Tharoor, and that is how democracies function. But for some reason, this government thought that we are going to make things function in a different way, and now they're going to pay the price for it. If in 12 years you've maintained a steady position, nobody is going to resign, and today one of your ministers resigns like this, how are you going to go to the people and say that we've stuck to the principle? Fact is, this government is completely clueless. The Prime Minister himself has no clue, because let's not forget, 40 hours ago, when Sonam Wangchuk's fast was broken by JP Nadda ji and other people from the Jitendra Singh, who's also in the Union Cabinet, Union Council of Ministers, there were no talks by the government saying that Dharmendra Pradhan would resign, and yet today Dharmendra Pradhan resigns, which means the government has made this decision in 40 hours. Probably not even 40 hours, in 4 hours. They are just, they're acting very reactionarily. They have no plan. And let's not forget, this is no longer a protest of only CJP, Dipke, Sonam Wangchuk. This is a people's movement now. You are seeing protests all the way from, Calcutta, Jaipur, Vancouver, London, Delhi, Bombay, everywhere, and they are not under the control of the CJP.
Which actually could be even more worrying, which may have possibly worried the Prime Minister even more. We are going to discuss that in a bit. A quick update coming in from Arunima. It's 3 o'clock. We were expecting the talks to begin at 3, defer to 3:30 and then defer to 4. But there was one issue. Okay, let me just go across to Saurav Das first and then I'm going to come back to Arunima.
वो गुनाह मान लिया था, आज उन लोगों से हमने अपना देश वापस ले लिया है। अभी सिर्फ शुरुआत हुई है, हम अपनी पूरी देश की शिक्षा व्यवस्था को बदलेंगे। हमें बहुत खुशी है, आज वो 21 परिवार जिन्होंने अपनों को खो दिया, आज हम उन्हें याद कर रहे हैं। ये सिर्फ शुरुआत है और आगे बहुत लड़ाई लड़नी बाकी है। हमारी तीनों डिमांड मान लीजिए, रिटर्न में हम घर चले जाएंगे।
I'm going to quickly go across to Vivek Tanka, Congress Member of Parliament. You know, Vivek, we were talking yesterday, but we were talking in a different context. Are you satisfied now? Will you let the House run from Monday? You wanted Dharmendra Pradhan to step down?
Pallavi, this had to happen. Even today morning I tweeted, I said it's in the interest of the government to accept the demand of the students, supported by all the parties, all political parties, especially in the opposition. Rahul ji was all out for it for months. You know, he was telling the youth that time has come to for the government to accept responsibility, accountability. So I'm sure with all the three demands met today, if what we hear is correct, the opposition parties will have a lot of reasons to rethink about their further strategy. And I'm happy that it's not. I don't take it as a victory. You know, I take it as something that the students, the aspirational students of India have achieved. They, you know, in India, the students are looking for jobs, they're looking for education, they're looking for opportunities, and when they find obstacles and hindrances all the time in their way, so they're a disappointed lot. That is why those young people that you saw in Jantar Mantar, they were not anti-national. They were not sponsored by China or Pakistan. I mean, what is all this narrative fake narrative that you keep making? Forget it. People even started saying that the government has contacted me to contact Sonam. Nobody in the government will have the gumption to contact me. Who can contact me? Why should they contact me? What was the need to contact me? For the last 7 days, I was telling Sonam and Gitanjali, listen, we are very worried about Sonam's life. We are worried about his health. And on 22nd, I met him with other MPs, with a memorandum signed by 19 MPs.
But you know, Mr. Tanka, while you would want to give the credit to the Congress party and to Rahul Gandhi for the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, let's face the reality. This movement was more being controlled by, say, the students themselves, a bit by the CJP and a lot by Sonam Wangchuk. Do you think Congress party was very slow, that good 20 to 21 days was lost by you when Rahul Gandhi was away? So you can't take credit.
Listen, what happens is, this was a people's movement. And in a people's movement, which was essentially propelled by the students, all parties were supporting them. All opposition parties were supporting them. And I don't take away the credit of the students. I mean, in fact, some of these boys who were addressing the press conferences are very bright. You know, the way they were talking, the way they knew their mind. They knew what they were saying. So actually the nation was very impressed with the movement of the students. So I salute the students for what they've done.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Tanka, for speaking to us this afternoon. Mr. Rajgopalan, I will definitely come to you in a bit. There's a quick update which is being brought in by Arunima, is that the talks are going to go on as scheduled between the CJP and the government representatives. Yes, Arunima.
So there was some doubt over that since the talks were postponed. Like we said, initially it was supposed to be at 3 o'clock and then we were told that it was being postponed till 4. And in the interim, news came in that Dharmendra Pradhan had stepped down. So when we checked with the government of India, whether or from their end these talks were on, we received a confirmation from government functionaries that the government is still committed to having that conversation with the CJP representative. The government ministers would want to hear from CJP if there's any change at their end. So from the government side, 4 o'clock, JP Nadda and Dr. Jitendra Singh would go, they're prepared to go and tell the CJP delegation that out of their 3 demands, the number one, for which they had sought 24 hours, that first demand has been met. Prime Minister has taken note of the other 2 demands as well, and the government is quite positive. That's what he conveyed yesterday also. What are these other 2 demands? First, 100 crore compensation to families who have lost their loved ones to suicide. In that all criminal cases that have been registered against protesting students be withdrawn as well. So now, as far as the government is concerned, there is no reason for CJP and the protesters at Jantar Mantar to continue to be there.
So the big question over here will be that how soon will the protests be called off at the Jantar Mantar and in other parts? Mr. Rajgopalan, I know you were wanting to say something. We are talking about the opposition parties taking credit. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Very, very simple. CJP has just now said 3 demands ko accept kar lijiye, we go home. So the agitation is coming to an end because they themselves agreed to that. Now it is for Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, JP Nadda and Mr. Jitendra Singh to accept the demands, and by end this evening the protest will be over. And moreover, my simple understanding, you asked Mr. Vivek Tanka, why the opposition leaders are not coming out openly so far? Another 1 hour has passed. There is no reaction from Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
I don't know why you're so desperate to listen to him. I'm sure he's going to tweet and put out a statement.
It's a purple moment. Therefore, he's accepting. Yeah. The cockroach has taken away the votes of Congress. That is the reality now. Cockroach is scaring Congress. That is the reality politically. That is the reality. Pallavi, you know very well, more than me and Raghunathan, internal dissensions are there in the Congress. That you must accept that. Therefore, there are internal dissensions in BJP also. I do agree. But it's a great victory, a good riddance of Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan. And for 1 or 2 minutes, you must also, the letter what Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan wrote contains 4 or 5 important things. He says the agitators are anti-national. So in the resignation letter, what did he mention? We also to probe it. This is not resignation letter. It is his statement only. Therefore, he is thanking Lord Jagannath. He is thanking the Oriya people. He is thanking everyone. But simply, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, who is going to replace him, and on Monday, will the bill be introduced, and what is stand of opposition? Simple as that.
No, the opposition has said that they're going to have the discussion. They want to have the discussion. So far, that's what they've been saying. But before I'm going to talk about anything, I want to come to you on this, because the CJP has come out with a latest statement. So clearly, the picture is not completely over. They've given out a list of their demands. The first demand has been met, which is Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. Now they are saying there are 3 other demands which are pending. That is 1 crore to the families of all the students who died by suicide, which is pending. No action against any of the student protesters should be taking place. That is also pending. Public apology from RAF and Delhi police. That is also pending. Jantar Mantar and the entire country is still waiting on the rest of the demands. So Anand, I don't think the protest will be called off anytime soon if these 3 demands are not fulfilled, which means with the which means the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is not enough, Anand. They also now want these other 3 demands. They've tasted blood. So now they're going to keep on scaling up their demands. Do you see the protest ending anytime soon?
Well, I think the ferocity of the protests and the idea of the protesters that they would have the rest of the country along with them, I think that's possibly going to fizzle out because most of their demands have been met. But I say this again, more than what they had demanded, were initially demanded by those who like Modi and vote for him. That was ignored. So the fact is, the message is now clear. The more you protest, the more you come onto the streets, the more this government will hear you. And there are endless issues that would force people to come onto the streets. So to answer you very briefly, such a vicious cycle would never end, because you would now, the assertion would be that anything that goes wrong in the central education system, you come on to the streets and protest. Forget about the education system that is being handled by the states, because the BJP itself has forgotten about it. The BJP itself is not demanding the resignation of Harjot Singh and Bangarappa. Why should anybody else do? So, when you have such unprofessional way in which you deal with the street protesters, I think you get paid back in kind, Pallavi. It's as simple as that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. You pay back in kind. But I also have Jasmine, before I come back to you, Nikhil. Jasmine, you're very much on ground zero. We've seen the CJP coming out with its list of demands, saying that 3 decisions are pending. Obviously, there could be a celebratory mood around you where the young students are protesting. But are they satisfied with just the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, or also are they agreeing with the statement of the CJP?
So at this point, yes, there is a celebratory mode here at Jantar Mantar, but people seem to not be very, very satisfied. They are definitely happy that the resignation that they have been demanding for over a month, they've seen hunger strikes here, they've seen protesters here, and thousands of students from all across the country. So they're certainly happy, but at the same time, protesters also continue to, at this point, also say that the resignation has come in too late. There are already a lot of students who had to commit suicide. There were already students who got injured by Delhi police. So they also continue to at the same time have their complaints, and they're also talking about the other demands that CJP had put to JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh about the apology from Delhi police and CRPF. They also said that they want to give compensation to the family. They want the compensation for the families of NEET students who committed suicide. So these are also some of the demands that are unfulfilled yet in terms of the written agreement that they wanted from the government, but their central demand has definitely been fulfilled. So the mood is celebratory, but students still seem to not be completely satisfied. They still have more to say. They still have more to ask for, it feels like.
I also have Nikhil, who still continues to remain with us. Nikhil, there could be a larger concern over here by possibly many within the government as well, that will this now lead to a chain reaction? Because then someone will say, oh, the Home Minister must go. Then another person will say the Prime Minister must go. Would you see this as a redux of UPA 2 days?
Absolutely, Pallavi. So in the past 3-4 days, whenever people have asked me that, do you think the Education Minister is going to resign? And my answer was simple, that no, he will not resign. I've turned out to be wrong, although. Because that is exactly what I felt, that the moment the government caves into the demand of the Education Minister resigning, people are going to ask questions about ethanol. People are going to ask questions about the expressways. People are going to ask questions about the economy. People are going to ask questions of the foreign policy. People are going to ask questions about the police brutality. Eventually, it is going to a point where people are going to ask for the resignation of the Prime Minister himself. And even in these protests, if you actually look at it, your reporters are on the ground. I'm sure you would have gone as well. You would have noticed that there is a protest that is between the 2 barricades at the Jantar Mantar road. There is a protest that is at the Tolstoy mark, and there is a protest that is at the Sansad mark. Once you go into the core protest, in front of the stage, the demands are for the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, and it is heavily focused on the NEET issue. But the moment you go to the Tolstoy mark, most of the naras that you will hear are against Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, especially after what happened on the 20th of July. Most of what you hear on Sansad Marg and other places in Delhi and in other places, other cities in the country where the protests are happening, they are against the government in general. So these NEET paper leaks only happen to be a catalyst issue. They are something that became a rallying point and nucleus to a larger growing nebula, you may call it, because most people are using these protests as a medium to express their dissent, a dissent that was not allowed to really come out in a very, very long time. I'll give you an example. It was very profound for me personally. I saw a bunch of young girls say in front of the police to them, "Police Murdabad." This is after, of course, the police brutality. That is not something I could have imagined 10 days ago, that some young girls will say to the police on their face, "Police Murdabad." That has nothing to do with Dharmendra Pradhan, Education Ministry, education reform, NEET, this, that. This is the dissent of the people that is coming out, and a chain reaction I'm sure is going to follow.
Okay, Nikhil, for now, I'm just going to shift focus to another news coming in. I'll come back to you, Anand, because I know you want to say something, and of course, Mr. Rajgopalan. You know, now it is going to be important to see come Monday, kya hota hai. Will they, because the bill is likely to be slotted for Monday. There's a discussion on this which was pending, which the government has been open about. But will the opposition parties now play along? Because opposition is certainly going to be on a higher platter now. The opposition is now going to be in a position of strength where they'll say that thanks to our pressure, the Education Minister had to step down. So what we are being told is that opposition does want a discussion. Which discussion? We'll have to wait to see. Yes, Arunima, though on record just now, the Samajwadi Party and Congress said that they do want a discussion on the bill whenever it comes up on Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, that's what opposition sources are indicating to CNN News 18 on source-based information as well, that they would want the discussion, not limited to the bill alone, but on the overall, how did the paper leak happen? Why did the police brutality happen? Who's responsible for targeting innocent children at Jantar Mantar and near the Parliament House, trying to hold the Prime Minister accountable, trying to hold the Home Minister accountable. So the echo that we had heard on the floor of the lower house as well as the upper house, pehle hi istifa, phir kuch aur, that from that position, it looks like that there is a window to show that Parliament could function come Monday. The opposition is now saying that we would want a discussion. Whether that discussion will be under rule for adjournment motion in Lok Sabha or similar rules in Rajya Sabha, or will it be a short duration discussion? I think those nuts and bolts are to be tightened now between the parliamentary minister and the floor leaders of the opposition. But there is it is looking like that in monsoon session, finally the dark clouds are letting a small window of opportunity where there could be some business on the floor of the House.
Pehle istifa, fir charcha. That is what the opposition had been saying, and they had been asking for an adjournment motion notice. That is, they do not want any other business of the House to run, plus the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Well, that is what the government was open about, but the priority, of course, is going to be the bill. Saurav Das has come out with a response. I'm going to go and listen to that first, and then I'm going to go across to Anand as well as Rajgopalan.
बहुत बहुत बड़ी जीत हुई है संविधान की, इस लोकतंत्र की, ये युवाओं का पावर है। और हम सरकार में, प्रशासन में सारे लोगों को बोल देना चाहते हैं, डू नॉट मेस विद द यंग जनरेशन। हमारा ताकत है ये, हमारा यूनिटी ताकत है। हिंदू मुस्लिम राजनीति छोड़ दीजिए। आपको चेतावनी है, एक इंसान का यहाँ पे इस्तीफा हुआ है। अगर आपने अपनी गंदी राजनीति नहीं छोड़ी, जवाबदेही और ट्रांसपेरेंसी में नहीं लाया, तो हम लोग किसी का रेजिग्नेशन नहीं छोड़ेंगे। तो बहुत बड़ी जीत है, संविधान जीता है, युवा जीते हैं, ये देश जीता है।
Okay, there is also a statement which has come in from Sonam Wangchuk, who, if you remember, had called off his hunger strike a few days back in the presence of two union ministers. And I'm quoting him, it's a victory of democracy, direct democracy, straight from the streets. It's a victory of peace, patience and perseverance. Congratulations, CJP, Gen Z of the nation, and thank you to all the citizens for shedding fear and the fear of fear and rising up from every corner of the nation. From accountability, now to reforms. That was Sonam Wangchuk's first reaction. Mr. Ranganathan, thank you for standing by with us. I know you wanted to say something, so that, plus the fact is, are you now going to see a new alternative develop as a political party or an entity? I remember the IIC of 2011, and then you have an Aam Aadmi party, and now do you say a CJP and Sonam Wangchuk becoming the view centers of that very critical youth vote bank?
Yeah, I think all options are open, if I may say so. I'll tell you why, Pallavi, because you look at the previous protests that have happened on CAA, on farm laws. Now, they were not just illegal protests, they were illogical and irrational protests, because the farm laws and CAA were actually promised and in the manifestos of the opposition parties. It's just that Modi fulfilled them and the opposition parties took a U-turn, and then the protests happened. In this case, the protests were legitimate. So, as I said, the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan and the following of the Radhakrishnan committee and all those things were demanded by everyone, cutting across party lines. So in this case, when the government has succumbed only to the street voice, while in the earlier case it succumbed to the street voice, but the protests were illegal and wrong and irrational, in this case, all options are open, because now they have the moral and ethical standing that they have achieved what was morally and ethically right. So there is a big difference here. I think the government, in ignoring the legitimate protests of the students and of Modi supporters 3 months ago, did a catastrophic error, and today they have doubled it up by acceding to Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation without demanding the resignation of the two education ministers under whom much worse has happened. I don't know who is advising whom.
But damn if you do and damn if you don't also. Nah? That's what happened, Mr. Ranganathan. Okay, I'm going to get in Nikhil in a bit, but Mr. Rajgopalan, do you think the Prime Minister tried to cut his losses, or he was actually left with no choice?
Politically, what I may now categorize 1, 2, 3, that is, JP Nadda's prime aim during the conversation with the CJP in another half an hour's time is to ensure the protest ends, because most of the demands have been deliberated. They also came with a resolution of 4 demands. One has been accepted, the other 3 have to be accepted. As Anand Ranganan said, this is also a priority for the government. Second, Pallavi, violence will have to end. There is an amount of happiness. With this joy, there won't be any violence. Government control the violence, and there is no question. Even the Supreme Court came very heavily on the Delhi Metro for shutting the 17, 18 stations. Now that will be open. Now that anger is out. Now, baki to reforms, continuation, we will talk later. These are all some government will all give a sweet talk.
I'm going to come to you in a bit, Mr. Rajgopalan, because there's some news update which is coming. That's very important. We were just discussing whether talks are going to carry on as scheduled. Well, the CJP delegation has now arrived for the 3rd round of talks with the government. My colleague Simran is there. I'm going to try and go across to Simran. So the talks are now going to taking place, but the CJP has also issued a statement that there are 3 pending issues. The 3 pending issues are, of course, as far as the action which was taken against the protesters earlier, that 1 crore of compensation that they're talking about, and also an apology coming in from the Rapid Action Force, where that kind of an action was taken against the protesters. While I wait for Simran to join me, I'm going to quickly go across to both my colleagues. Aman is very much with us. Payal is also with us. First to you, Aman, very, very quickly. Okay, I'm going to come to you. We've got Gitanjali Angma, who's, of course, Sonam Wangchuk's wife, but also someone who has been protesting. Thank you very much for speaking to CNN News 18. Your first reactions to the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan.
I repeat what Sonam has already tweeted, that it's a victory of direct grassroots democracy and of peace and perseverance. It is just, but we should remember that this is just the first step. This is a symbolic, victory to move to the larger goal and agenda of the actual educational reform, which will be the bedrock of the future. So yes, of course, it's a huge victory, because there was a tremendous moral pressure that the movement created within the government. If they hadn't done it, they would have lost serious credibility. So hats off to this generation who, with their resilience and perseverance, held the fort, held the ground, and did not step back, and continued it till this was done. Extremely welcome step. And now we have to move to the next step of reforming and making the education system in India the best in the world. Thank you.
Working out with a bill on that, but before I ask you about that, do you think now the protests should be called up, the students go back home, go back to studies? Do you think this is the time when those protests should be called off at the Jantar Mantar?
So this decision has to be taken jointly, and we will regroup, meet up, and we shall come back to you on this.
Okay, and I'm sure, one last question. You know that a bill is coming up on Monday, post-pike in Parliament, to make it more and more stringent. You think all political parties need to sink their differences and come together to ensure the quick passage of this bill?
Yeah, I have again and again in all my interviews and articles everywhere, I have said that this movement has gone beyond political parties and their agendas. It is about reform, not just of the education system, but all the other systems which are rotten to the core. So political parties have become, not inconsequential. Now the movement has moved to the grassroots, and I think that it's an opportunity for all the political parties to look afresh to build a new India.
So it's not, the political parties should not take credit?
I think, can we grow up and mature from taking credit to actually selflessly working for the nation? I think that's what the kids have shown. Nobody is here to take credit. Okay. I think it's a lesson for the political parties and for everybody who wants to take credit. And it's only focused on credit, that for once, for heaven's sake, let's move beyond credits and vote banks and party politics to the larger good of nation building.
Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us. You know, Aman, this is a very interesting point which Gitanjali Angmo has spoken about. This is not a time for political parties. They need to rethink. If you remember in 2011, when these protests were carried on by Anna Hazare, it gave rise to AAP. It was a redrawing of the political landscape. Do you think this particular protest, which has taken place at Jantar Mantar, has once again redrawn the political landscape as far as the opposition is concerned? Aman, I'm trying to fix your audio. I'll just come back to you in a bit. Payal is with us. Payal, now this is going to be a big challenge because I'm just seeing Amit Malviya's post also on X where he's actually talking about the contribution of Dharmendra Pradhan. You know, he's been one of the most seasoned senior politicians, the Education Minister. But I don't know how many of their sources you managed to speak to as yet. But do you think that this could make many others edgy? Because now there's no stopping, say, the CJP and others. Because then they'll start saying, isko bhi istifa dena hai, usko bhi usi issue pe istifa. So would you say a little shaky situation as far as the government is concerned, or they are in control? Payal, if you can hear me. Payal, if you can hear me. Okay, I'm going to try and connect with Payal and with Aman as well. I'm just going to go across to my guests as well. Mr. Rajgopalan, if you're still with me at this point of time. Mr. Rajgopalan, do you think this is going to make the other ministers little edgy as far as the government is concerned?
I can't hear. I can hear you now, but I couldn't hear Pallavi.
Ministers will see sigh of relief for them. And now Prime Minister's intervention at the right time has helped two things. Politically, he has won. Second thing, he has politically taken the steam out of the opposition, give credit to the students. Now, the students' movement, definitely, as you said, will it go further like Anna Hazare movement turning into formation? I feel it won't, because at that time the government was weak, whereas here Narendra Modi is very strong, and politically very strong person, and any crisis, if you give it to Narendra Modi, he will turn into an opportunity for the BJP. So therefore, my only interest is that today the violence will be end, because everyone is happy with the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Baki thing kal parson dekha jayega.
That should be the priority. That should be the priority, end to any kind of a violence. Okay, I think Aman and Payal are still with us, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to quickly go across to Aman, if you can hear me. What I was asking you is, would you see this as a redrawing of the political landscape? That, they are now political stakeholders who can seize the movement. And this I'm asking from the point of view of the opposition parties, because they may want to celebrate, but as Gitanjali Angmo pointed out, that even they need to redraw and rethink their political strategies.
Well, clearly, Pallavi, see, one thing is very, very clear, that the government sources, what they are telling me, that this resignation, if it has happened because the original stakeholders of this protest had this demand, which is the CJP, which is Sonam Wangchuk. It is not happening under the pressure of the opposition parties, the Congress party, because, they are not the original stakeholders of the protest. For a long time now, at least for the last 2 to 3 weeks, when I have been speaking to the government sources, they have been very clearly saying that, this may not stop here. Today, you want the Education Minister's resignation. Tomorrow, Rahul Gandhi may ask for the Home Minister's resignation, which he also did. And this is a never-ending thing. And this government is not known to succumb to political pressure. But one thing was very clear, that the government also realized, and you saw that in the Prime Minister's outreach over the last few days, that the government thought that the original stakeholders of the protest, the students, the CJP, have a valid grouse. If they're angry for a reason. It is the job of the government to reach out to them. And that is why 2 senior ministers were deputed on the task to go and meet Sonam Wangchuk, go and meet CJP. Another meeting, the third round, is going to happen today. So definitely that outreach happened. And when yesterday, I think this decision, Pallavi, the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan has been decided within the last 24 hours. That is what I can tell you. Because yesterday, when the CJP came to meet the 2 ministers, they said that the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is a non-negotiable. If that does not happen, we will escalate our protest from Sunday, from Monday. We will again march to the parliament. This will go countrywide. The government does not want that kind of a situation at all. So I think Dharmendra Pradhan has also, in a way, I would say, seen reason that, you know, his continuance is also causing a problem for the government, a problem for in Delhi as general, and that is why he's very graciously, I think if you read his resignation letter, it's a very gracious letter. He says, I did my best. You know, I got a NEET done. I've been 40 years in politics. I've done my best, but, you know, if it is not good enough, if anti-national elements, one line, Pallavi, in that letter is very important, where he says that anti-national elements are trying to misguide the student and trying to exploit the situation at Jantar Mantar. I would not allow that to happen, and that is one reason that he's resigned. So I think that is the government's approach towards this entire matter.
Okay, I'm going to go to Payal in a bit while we fix your audio, but this is the point I want to ask Mr. Ranganathan, that in the last 24 hours, there must have been a lot of manthan within the NDA, within the government and the Prime Minister himself. Do you think that for him it was very important to ensure that these protests don't become unruly and violent, and if you have to sacrifice a mantri, then so be it? But do you also think that his challenge in a sense also begin now, because, you know, his government should not look weak?
So, couple of things out here. Number one, may I disagree with my elder brother Rajagopalan ji? This is not a political victory for Narendra Modi at all. Number two, because I said for the reasons that this protest was a legitimate protest, because the grouse was absolutely legitimate, unlike the farm law or the CAA. In this case, if the government wanted to pay heed to the protesters, it should have called the original protesters, not the masqueraders or the hypocrites like the CJP or the opposition parties. It should have formed a band of people originally like Ajit and Anuradha and Neha to come to the table. Yes, what are your demands? Oh, these are your demands? Yes, we pay heed to them. Now what the government has done is, the government has given such a long rope to the, you already heard, there are fresh demands for Amit Shah's resignation. They now want Nitin Gadkari to resign. This is not going to end soon, Payal, because the fact of the matter is, this was a legitimate protest. The government should have found out the legitimate people who first raised this grouse, not these hypocrites. So that is where it's a disaster.
Okay, I'm going to try and go to I'm going to try and go to Payal in a bit, but there is this update which is coming in that the CJP delegation has left from Jantar Mantar. They've headed to Constitution Club. Remember, Constitution Club was the venue of the talks which were taking place between the CJP and the government yesterday, and there was this whole question happening that whether the talks are going to take place today. But there is a delegation of the CJP which has just left from Jantar Mantar. They've headed to a Constitution Club for the third round of talks with the government. JP Nadda also has left for the Constitution Club. That's the big question, the big issue, which means that talks are very much on schedule. I'm going to try and get some more updates on this. But Mr. Rajgopalan, you were trying to say something. Yes, go ahead.
My simple point is, at the meeting venue, definitely the CJP will surmount pressure. At the same time, government will also ensure that the compensation is a matter of the Prime Minister's discretion. Second thing, what the reforms bill is also before them. I am very sure Nadda will succeed, because it is on the Nadda's one-to-one meeting with the Prime Minister, it all happened. Simply saying that by end of this evening, you will get a good news. That is the feedback I am getting from government sources.
Okay, we have also Mr. Akhil who is joining us, political analyst. I'm going to try and wait. I think Payal is also getting us some update. I'm going to try and connect with her in a bit. But Mr. Akhil, you wanted to say something. Yes, quickly.
Pallavi, if an incompetent minister has resigned today because of the paper leak, why that a cruel and such a I don't know what kind of merciless and ruthless person who is sitting on the chair of the Home Minister. The students have been beaten up. The ICU one girl was in ICU. Today she has come out. And the broken legs and broken hands of my young children and boys and girls. And the Zomato and Swiggy persons were not allowed to feed our children. Now the lesser culprit has been punished. The bigger culprit has to be punished, who ordered and they were unmasked. The mask.
I have to interrupt you here. There's some big update which is coming in. I'm going to come back to you. My colleague Payal Mehta is getting us this big update that there was a meeting which took place between the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah. Payal, the big challenge will now be to, I guess, to ensure that the government looks in control, but more importantly, the successor to Dharmendra Pradhan.
Yes, that's going to be a crown of thorns, like I said, to walk on. The Prime Minister, in fact, met the Home Minister. The Home Minister was at the Prime Minister's residence and he left there a good 15 to 20 minutes ago, is what our sources are indicating. It must have been a very important meeting, a meeting to, in fact, how to see how to mitigate the crisis. Yes, everybody's demand for Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation has come through. Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned, but what happens? You can't have a post vacant. We are in the middle of Parliament session. We have questions that have to be answered. We have multiple responsibilities that a union minister really fulfills. So who fills in for him? Will there be an immediate cabinet reshuffle? Will there be a step from the normal? Will they have an immediate cabinet reshuffle happening, or will there be an additional charge which is given to an existing minister? Because just about yesterday, Pallavi, after the cabinet meeting, when we were talking to our government sources and talking to various ministries and ministers, there was no question of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. There was no indication at all about that as far as that is concerned. We in fact went ahead and asked top ministers also if they had heard anything of that sort, and if there was any indication that Dharmendra Pradhan may be asked to step down. There was nothing like that really happened. So something has transpired between then and now, within 24 hours, that Dharmendra Pradhan has decided to step down. He currently is, in Delhi. Dharmendra Pradhan is very much in Delhi. He is going to be, in fact, meeting some people, is what I'm given to understand. But like I said, the million-dollar question is that who fills in for him? Will there be a new person who's going to be brought in? Because there are few faces that are waiting in the wings to be in fact brought in into the cabinet, or will it be a fact that they will in fact make somebody take the additional charge till the entire reshuffle takes place? Mind you, the Education Ministry is a full-fledged ministry. Yes. It's a very important ministry because the demand of the students to correct things will not just end right here after Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. They want multiple things to take shape. They want to find out from the government as to what is going to happen next year. How will the NEET examinations take place? Because for the last 3 to 4 years that Dharmendra Pradhan has been working on this entire thing, he has also communicated to the government, communicated to the top of the government, that it is important to understand that the NEET is actually a headache of the health ministry and that the exams should be conducted under health ministry. There is also a proposal which says that clearly they wanted to get these exams done in a manner that you reduce the dependence on pen and paper. Digvijay Singh's committee, the education committee, has also made a number of very important recommendations as far as that is really concerned. So all of these things are a matter for discussion, and who is better to in fact discuss on this issue or any other issue with the Prime Minister than the Home Minister, who is one of his closest confidants.
Yes, and before I go to Jasmine Paila, I want to ask you another question. It's unprecedented when a parliament session is on, you have a senior minister among the top few ministers actually step down. But it's also an unfinished agenda. There's going to be a discussion, or the bill is going to be presented by Mr. Jitendra Singh on Monday and Tuesday. But there's also an unfinished agenda, and a big one at that, on reforming the education plus the examination business. So you get a sense that the government cannot afford to waste time in appointing a replacement for Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, and that decision could happen as soon as today
Well,
itself?
that decision is likely to happen at least by the end of today. Either somebody gets an additional charge or somebody gets appointed anew. Because in that case, there has been a lot of talks that have been doing the round. You cannot have an important ministry like this staying vacant, for such a long time. You're in the middle of parliament session. There are question asks that take place where cabinet ministers and MOSs, although Dharmendra Pradhan has 2 MOSs under him. There's of course Jayant Chaudhary is one of his MOS and Shukanta Majumdar being his other MOS. But they cannot fill in for the cabinet minister's post as well. There are a lot of paperwork that have to be signed. There's a lot of files that have to be moved and signed as well. So you cannot have a vacant position. But what the Prime Minister decides, in coordination with the top leadership of the party, whether it's JP Nadda, who is in fact meeting the CJP delegation, has been constantly engaging with them, whether it's Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Party President Nitin Nabin, who is going to have a say. His team is also pending as well. So a lot of pendency as far as the BJP is concerned, a lot of pendency as far as the NDA government is concerned. Although the NDA government, Pallavi, has a complete support, they are completely backing the Prime Minister in whatever decision he takes, and therefore none of these alliance partners have come out and even said anything which is going to make the Prime Minister or anybody else uncomfortable. They are saying that it is a whole of government approach that we want to really allow, and that's the reason the Prime Minister lauded and congratulated Dharmendra Pradhan when the NEET re-examination really happened. To be fair to Dharmendra Pradhan, from the day one that the controversy panned out, never ever did he shun responsibility, Pallavi. From day one, multiple interactions we've all had with him, he said, it is my responsibility, I take responsibility, but let's get the exam out of the way first and everything else can really follow. So therefore, he also in his resignation says one thing very importantly, I do not want certain lumpen elements to take control of the entire situation. The student protest is genuine, the concerns are genuine, and therefore, I am submitting my resignation to the Prime Minister. Of course, the lot remains in suspense because tomorrow is a holiday, Monday Parliament resumes, and probably we'll have to just wait and see what happens before that.
And there was a swelling up of crowds at the Jantar Mantar. The government does not want the situation to go out of control. I'm going to go to Jasmine in a bit, but there's a quick update. Remember, the third round of talks between the CJP and government was supposed to take place today. It was supposed to be at 3. Well, that talk is about to resume as the representatives, that is the CJP's delegation, has already arrived at the venue of the talks, which is the Constitutional Club. So anytime now, that meeting is going to begin. 3 pending issues, according to CJP, has to be sorted out before the protests are over. But I'm going to go across to my colleague on the ground, who's Jasmine. Jasmine, you were telling us it was exuberance and there was rejoice as far as the news came in, but clearly the CJP and rather a statement says just the resignation is not enough. Do the students also say this, or they are happy with the resignation of the Education Minister?
The students on the ground are certainly happy with the resignation of the Education Minister, since that's one demand that was their central demand, and they had been asking for it for over a month now. We've seen hunger strikes and we've seen a lot of protest happen at Jantar Mantar. However, the sense on the ground that I get, as of now, people are certainly happy, but they are not fully satisfied as well. They still continue to feel that the resignation has come in way too late. The resignation came in only after the police beat children. The children got injured. The resignation came in after the NEET students had to commit suicide. So this is the sentiment on the ground that the students have. So there is a sense of happiness, but there is also a sense that it came in way too late. But at the same time, students are also saying that the Prime Minister's resignation also has to come in, that the Home Minister's resignation also has to come in. So it doesn't look like that the protest is getting withdrawn. I'm not really sure if the protest is getting withdrawn, even though the central demand has been met. So we'll have to wait and watch if CJP, now the delegation that is going to meet, that is meeting the government, how will they now ensure that their demands being met? Will the crowd now evaporate from the Jantar Mantar, or will it continue to ask for further demands? Their additional demands, such as they want in return that the government will give compensation to the affected families of NEET students who committed suicide, and also there will be no legal case against the protesters. These are the demands that they want in return at this point, but their central demand has been done. They also want apology from CRPF and Delhi police. But as of now, if I look at the ground, the protesters are still there. They're celebrating, but they're certainly asking for more.
Okay. So, and also, I think my guests continue to remain with me. If Mr. Akhil, if you're still with us at this point of time, Jasmine, I'm going to come back to you. I mean, while you're covering the sentiment on the ground. You know, Mr. Akhil, the opposition parties also need to reflect, don't you think so? Because this was clearly, if you want to call this an achievement, largely because of the student protests. Don't you think the opposition parties also run the risk of maybe sidelined or not being looked upon as an alternative to the government, which is in power at this point of time? Mr. Akhil, if you can hear me.
Asking question to me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
See, I am not satisfied. I'm a teacher. The way Home Ministry worked and the police beat our students and mercilessly beaten our students, and it was unprovoked. Our Gandhian ideology was beaten up by the Godsewadis, and the Godse tried to kill Gandhi again. We Gandhians stand with the students. We want resignation of Amit Shah.
Oh God, now you want a resignation of... Okay, Mr. Ranganathan, this is exactly what we were talking about a short while back. It's not...
Clapping.
Okay. No, he's not clapping. No, he... Mr.
Ranganathan.
Yeah, Akhilji, I heard you. Mr. Ranganathan...
BJP supporters are supporting me.
Acha, theek hai. Mr. Ranganathan, he's not a BJP supporter over here. He's like a political analyst. But Mr. Ranganathan, this is exactly... Akhilji, 1 minute. Okay, I heard you. Ranganathan, this is exactly the problem, is it? We are not talking about the opposition also needing to rethink or re-strategize. That's what Gitanjali Angmo told me a short while back. But even, do you think this is exactly what could happen now? There's an ethanol issue where they're going to start putting a demand on. Then they're going to talk about Mr. Nitin Gadkari. Then they're going to talk about the Home Minister and finally the Prime Minister. There are good 3 years left to go for this government.
Exactly as both of us predicted, not just half an hour ago, but a little bit earlier than that. And that has come true on live TV. Of course, it's going to happen. But the fact of the matter is, if the opposition was serious and stood for the students, it would have... Swamiji, I didn't interrupt you. I've been listening to you.
One minute. Please, let him finish. Akhilji, please let him finish.
Yes, because if the opposition was serious in representing the students, then it would have demanded the resignation of not just Pradhan, but of Harjot Singh and Bangarappa, the two other education ministers of Congress ruled and AAP ruled Punjab and Karnataka respectively, who've also had severe bunglings under them, but they didn't. So, but that is what opposition does. My only, the silver lining in the cloud is that they would ask for everyone else's resignation except Modi, because they know, agar Modi chala gaya to Yogi aa jayega.
Okay.
अरे योगी
Okay, so
पाएंगे बच्चों के सामने, जेंजी के सामने 100 योगी ले आइए।
अच्छा अखिल जी 1 minute. All of us are going to discuss it very amicably. यहाँ पे नहीं लड़ाई करनी है। अखिल जी
घबराना नहीं है।
एक मिनट अच्छा एक मिनट both of you 1 minute. There's some news which is coming in. I'm going to go and reflect that. Priyanka Chaturvedi has also joined us. I'm going to go to her in a bit, but this is one big reaction coming in from the government first. This is Mr. Kiran Rijiju, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister. Very interesting. He puts up a picture of himself along with, well, the former Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. I'm just quoting what he's saying. True leadership is measured over decades, and Dharmendra Pradhan ji's journey stands as a testament to lifelong engagement with public life and student welfare. Having worked alongside him in the Union Cabinet, I have seen his sincere dedication to strengthening India's education ecosystem, keeping up millions of young students at the center of every decision. Leading such a critical sector demands immense perseverance, and he embraced it with courage and clear vision. Dharmendra ji, thank you for your relentless service, your commitment to reforms and your contribution to building a stronger India. I wish you the very best as you continue to serve the nation with the same conviction and sincerity. What is interesting over here is that it is not going to be projected as Dharmendra Pradhan being forced to resign, but rather that Dharmendra Pradhan opted for the fact that the students' interests should be paramount, and also at the same time huge tributes being paid to the former Education Minister. I'm going to be joined, in fact, I'm joined by Priyanka Chaturvedi. Thank you so much. We really miss you in Parliament. But Priyanka, this is my first question to you is, are you satisfied with the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, or would the opposition want more?
No, what is of biggest satisfaction is the rise of India's youth asking for accountability. That has been the most fascinating aspect of this entire, I would say, the face-off. They did not ask for a face-off. What they asked for was accountability, which wasn't forthcoming from this government. So they may make him look like a martyr right now. Kiran Rijiju might pay tributes to him. The question comes down to just one thing, which is accountability as far as education is concerned. I was listening to Anand Ranganathan, and Anand said, Yogi ji aa jayenge. Please, if he wants to keep coming on television channels, he must remember that Amit Shah ji is still waiting in line. So he better not make such comments. So having said that, the question is, of course, about accountability. Of course, every state government would need to be held accountable. But the bigger question is, the paper leak mafia had grown beyond states' limit to be able to control it. It is a national menace. And Dharmendra Pradhan went on to become the symbol of that menace. Right from 2024 with Paper Leak Act, which was passed in 2024 before they went into an election, it was passed by all sides. It was a unanimous passing of that particular bill. What happened? We got a paper leak in 2025. We got a paper leak in 2026, which led to a re-examination, which led to deaths of 22 people, 22 young students. That is when the students said enough is enough and we need accountability. So I think it is more about accountability and, of course, about the government realizing that they cannot continue to brazen out all such problems that prevail in the country without setting, the standards that the public expects of, especially Narendra Modi ji.
Do you think the government delayed the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan? Do you think this is something?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They should have immediately when the disruption started to happen, when that unhappiness was coming forward, and then you saw the CBSE also, when the government continued to defend Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, and students, 16-year-old students were exposing the problem with CBSE OSM marks, right? OSM corrections. There were 16-year-old students who were first discredited. It's exactly like how this played out. Calling them anti-nationals, calling them traitors, calling them deep state funded, calling it a deep state funded conspiracy. Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Russia, they brought in everything probably. But the students' resolve continued to be the same. Similarly with 16-year-old children started the OSM problems. And that is when the government was forced to acknowledge those problems. So if the government would have stepped up then, started a conversation with the youth even before Sonam Wangchuk ji went on a protest and went on a fast, it could have been resolved. You'll allow the problem to fester to a point where it looks like an embarrassment is stepping down and a huge victory for the students of this country.
Okay, Priyanka, now this question also comes in on the opposition party. One is, this movement has been largely about organic. There are students who've protested. It's seen as their win, and all of you are actually congratulating the young students. I was speaking to Sonam Wangchuk's wife a short while back. She said opposition parties also need to rethink their strategy. Is this a wake-up call also for opposition parties like the Congress party, for example, that, you know, it was not a political party, but rather the inorganic, or rather the organic, I'm sorry, the students coming there, the CJP, who are apolitical stakeholders, who actually seized the moment. So the credit goes to them. So is there an alternative which is now developing, a political alternative?
So absolutely, you know, this is something I had put out long time ago when CJP saw such a popular, you know, support coming from people across the country, and with over 1 million followers on social media as soon as CJP was proposed, and which was just a digital idea, online platform idea, and it started to get a lot of support. And that, this is after the Chief Justice of India had called unemployed youth as cockroaches and termites and God knows what all. But it got the support it did. And that is when I had put out this tweet that somehow the opposition parties would need to rethink their own strategy. That why is it that people are attracted to an idea which is now only online, not a political party, not a political movement, yet they're choosing that over us. So that is something which I will continue to say, as much as it might be problematic for the opposition to hear, but till we don't start talking about the challenges that we face in winning the confidence of the people, we will have to keep trying harder.
I'm glad you're so candid, because that is really going to be a big movement, but opposition parties also need to rethink that. What is
You
it
know,
that they could have
my
done?
being candid has led to many misinterpretations about who I am, and what my decisions, life decisions are going to be.
Megha, I'm going to come back to you in a bit, because there's a quick update which is coming in. We're talking about the CJP government meeting. At this point of time, the government representatives, the same ministers who were in the first two rounds of talks, JP Nadda as well as Jitendra Singh, they arrived for talks for the CJP delegation. The talks have just about going to begin. Simran Babbar is covering that talk which is taking place. Simran, one agenda fulfilled, but they are saying there are 3 more pending agendas. You think there could be a resolution today and a protest could be called off?
Well, absolutely. After yesterday, as both the parties, the centre and the CJP representatives have very confidently expressed that there is some move forward. And even at Constitution Club, at the first, when we arrived here, the CJP representatives, Ashutosh Ranka and Saurabh Das, at first they arrived and they were given, the Delhi police had securely sent them in the very guarded security loopholes. There is paramilitary force here as well at the Constitution Club, completely guarded, while there is an interim shutdown also at the moment. And just after 20-25 minutes later, then the Health Minister JP Nadda and the Union MOS Jitendra Singh has then arrived together, and they have just went inside to now start the talks, which are actually constituting the most important question, the fundamental question that really remains hanging at this point of time. If at all this protest is going to be now called off, is there some direction in which both the protesters, those who have been demanding long time for the educational reforms and the state of education system in the country, is there some hope that will be assured to these protesters through their representatives by the centre? Will the approach after the resignation is going to work or not? Because that is their one demand that they were not, in fact, coming down from. They said it is a complete non-negotiable, and in a way, this certainly is being lauded as the victory of all of those who have been protesting for days. There have been controversies that have mired because of all of the protests, but actually the government has done something that has also come as unthinkable and unprecedented at the point of time. But at the very same time, as the meeting yesterday as well lasted roughly around 40 minutes, today as well we expect that maybe there would be some unfinished discussions that are going to take place, and finally there would be a concrete statement that we can expect further as both of them come and finish the talks regarding what happens to the protest and the course of this agitation further.
Okay, Simran, thank you very much for getting us those details. We still continue to Okay, we have only Simran. Simran, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just coming back to you once again. I know it could be euphoric as far as the protesters are concerned, but do you think that they would be satisfied with the fact that at least the education minister has resigned and it's time to go back home?
Well, I am right now at the point where there is a lot of noise. Can you please, importantly, just repeat your question?
Do you get this sense that the students who are protesting at Jantar Mantar would now want to go back home and they want to call up the protests and not, unlike the CJP, actually wait for the other 3 pending demands to be fulfilled?
Well, exactly. In fact, that is the sense that we also started picking up from the ground, and as the security also was heightened because of what really happened just this afternoon after the resignation, the important focus from the security agencies on the ground was also to ensure that there are no fresh escalations that could be reported. Now we speak of the students who are there on the ground. Well, it is expected that they would be adamant to implement and to get the response on their other 2 demands as well. And it is also well in the optics of how the CJP has been protesting at this moment for more than a month now, that they would be continuing their protests with this agitation taking forward. But as the representatives have also expressed some confidence that they can also listen to what the government has to say. There have been already, apart from the resignation, some very monumental changes even that have begun with the NTA that we speak of, even the sacking of the 47 officials and the new post of the vacancy. There are corrective measures indeed that are being implemented and that have already taken off. So that should also give some hope onto the direction in which the educational reform and the changes are demanded at the moment. But more importantly, this remains to be very categorically viewed, even as the opposition had from this onset demanded the resignation, even with how the CJP had continued their first and foremost demand. As the resignation has now come, do they think this needs to be going further than this, as there could be the rest of the discussions, the rest of the demands and the rest of the expectations could also be taken forward once the protest cools down, once there is the another way to understand that there could be further talks that could be held again. But if at all this is the only way in which the protest could be continued or not, that is something that we would have to wait and watch as per the talks that are underway. And these talks are also very high stakes because yesterday the CJP representatives very clearly mentioned that there's no point in talking to the government again and again if they're not going to listen to our demand of the sacking of the educational minister. Now, how do they respond to this? Do they congratulate? What do they say? Do they say that we are thankful that you have considered our request or not? That is what we can also confirm once they are also out, as this is a closed-door meeting and no one is actually allowed inside and around that area.
Okay, I'm going to go to Payal in a bit, but before that, let me just go across to Jasmine, who has been reporting from Ground Zero. Jasmine, is there a sense of restlessness or there's a sense of satisfaction as far as the protesters are concerned? Are they in sync with the rest of the CJP delegation that we want 3 more of our pending demands to be fulfilled before calling off the protest?
Pallavi ma'am, could you come again?
Jasmine, what I'm asking is that the CJP has said that they're not just satisfied with the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, they have 3 more pending demands. Is that the sense you get from among the protesting students who are pretty much on their own in a way, but they would be happy with the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan and go back home?
Absolutely, Pallavi ma'am. At this point, protesters are definitely following what the Cockroach Janata Party is saying. Cockroach Janata Party is definitely leading this protest. So whatever the Cockroach Janata Party says out loud in terms of that they have received one of their demands as one demand is fulfilled, but they do have some other demands that are left. So definitely the crowd is happy, but at the same time, the crowd is following the Cockroach Janata Party. They are continuously demanding everything that the Cockroach Janata Party is asking for. Other than that, when I was on the ground in Jantar Mantar, the crowd also continued to say, the protesters also continue to say that they also want the resignation of Home Minister, they also want the resignation of the Prime Minister, and they also show their disappointment as to why the resignation of the Education Minister has come so late. So despite Cockroach Janata Party not commenting more on the resignation, the protesters continue to talk about how the resignation coming in late keeps them disappointed to some extent even right now.
Okay. I'll come back to you later. Thank you very much for now, Jasmine. We also have Payal. We also have Mr. Tushar Gupta. But before I come to you, Tushar, you know, Payal, now the challenge for the government begins in multiple ways. Finding a successor, that is one. Getting the bill passed in Parliament, that should not be too difficult. But more important, the image of the party, the image of the government actually.
Well, they are accountable to the public. That's the larger message that the Prime Minister is trying to send. The Prime Minister said, we are not power hungry, we are not hungry for anything. So when there was a controversy, you remember, around Me Too, without any doubt, the government in fact asked MD Akbar to step down and he was asked to resign as well. So accountability to the public is something which is very, very important as far as Narendra Modi's government is concerned. And that is the reason his approval ratings have always been very, very high. This is the reason that public has elected them to come to power, for third time in a row. They have not come to power on the basis of what Rahul Gandhi or probably Akhilesh Yadav are doing or saying as well. People at large have faith in Prime Minister Narendra Modi that he helped the country tide through some of the most biggest storms, whether it's the war-torn situation that you see right now, whether you saw it during the COVID times, or when you saw that there's an economic, crackdown everywhere. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been able to exhibit excellent leadership. He has not been shy to take tough calls as well. Of course, it's a very unfortunate scene that you see right now. Unprecedented scenarios that are happening in the middle of the Parliament session. Never ever have you seen that really happen in the longest of the history that I remember as far as the country is concerned, unless there are reasons beyond your control. But like I said, yes, the demand was constantly growing. Dharmendra Pradhan in his resignation letter also saying very clearly, I do not want unwanted elements, I do not want such anti-elements to take advantage of the student protest, which was very, very genuine, and therefore, in the interest of everybody, I have decided to step down, but I have done the work that I was supposed to do. He said he has had over 4 decades of exposure as a political leader. He has been somebody who's held multiple portfolios, not just in the government, but also in the organization. He's somebody who's had a lot of organizational strength. He in fact was extremely instrumental in the big Bihar win that you saw recently. He was extremely instrumental in the Haryana win, which was very critical for the BJP in terms of optics after the 2024 dismal election that you saw, where they did not get complete majority on their own. So Dharmendra Pradhan has multiple things that is added in terms of value as far as the organization is concerned. Comes in from the roots of the organization, was an ABVP person, has come from that route onwards as well. But given the fact that this is a very, very tricky situation right now, the protests are only mounting. There are certain elements who are trying to take advantage of the entire thing. So it will be very wrong to say that political pressure has led to this. Prime Minister has always stood for the people, and his message has been very clear. Youth is all that matters to the country. So multiple people could have made fun of the Prime Minister day before yesterday or yesterday for putting out those Instagram videos. In fact, Pallavi, people actually started making fun of him also for advising all his party colleagues and all his cabinet colleagues to start participating more in Instagram, which is the platform the youth really follows. But that is how the Prime Minister really looks at things. He is, of course, somebody who thinks ahead of his times.
Okay, Tushar. We also have Tushar Gupta. We also have Tehseen Poonawalla now joining us. Tushar, to you first, because I'm looking at one of your posts which you had put up a short while back, where you said that this does not necessarily mean that the government is going to begin, the Parliament will begin working. The content creators, agencies controlling them have been incentivized. You actually think that this is now going to...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see Tehseen on the screen and I want to tell him, this is your shot. It's early Christmas. Go ask for the resignation of Nitin Gadkari also now. Because Pallavi, that is what has happened. If you had to go for the resignations of Dharmendra Pradhan, if you had to overhaul the NTA, if you had to suspend 47 officers, why not do it 6 weeks ago? My problem is not that the Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned. My problem is that it comes from a social media demand. A political opposition, even though an opposition is at least elected, it is a representative of some people.
But they also have been demanding his resignation.
No, hold on. But the government hasn't been talking to the political opposition. They have been hosting the likes of Sauradas and Ranka for a meeting. That is where it gets very problematic. Then why not host Tehseen for a meeting on ethanol also? Why is this selective? Why this selective bias? फिर तो तहसीन को भी इनवाइट करो, किसी को भी इनवाइट करो ना। अभी क्या होगा, इंस्टाग्राम पे anyone will create a page with 20 million followers, say I represent this fraternity, I represent this issue, and they'll demand a resignation, they'll demand a meeting. You have set a very dangerous precedent. This is now the Instagramification of our politics, and battles will be fought on social media where the numbers are always opaque, the agencies are always buying out numbers, and that is where the mandate of the people is being overruled to some extent by street veto. That is where I have a very, very serious concern.
Okay. Tehseen, you were there when that Anna Hazare movement happened, and there were many
Fraud.
of us who were... एक मिनट.
Fraud. Anna was a fraud.
कुछ लोग तो आपको भी बोल रहे हैं. Let me listen, let me complete. My point is that everyone said that it was a huge mistake that the then UPA government ministers, 5 of them, were even negotiating and speaking to people who had not even contested elections, leave alone won elections, and they were apolitical negotiators and things. The point which Tushar is making is actually important. You are also running Team Bharat. Then this was clearly the CJP is not a political party. It's not even a political entity, that's what they say. Do you think we've now reached one different mode or stage in our politics of our country which actually could be dangerous?
So let me agree with some things Tushar said. Pallavi, thank you for having me on the show. Disagree with some things. First of all, Tushar and I disagreed on ethanol. And that's fine. It was civil, it was democratic, and he has a right to disagree, and I have a right to disagree. But my protest stayed within the 4 walls of civility. I never used abusive language. I never brought in Maryada Purushottam Sri Ram. I never got in political parties to make abusive speeches. And we even took the jibes in a fun way, which was fun. Where Ramji is insulted, where you have failed actors trying to make their career, you are giving into such lumpen elements. Then the point is, why didn't you give it when your actual voters, and I'm not a BJP voters, were protesting against UGC? Those poor people you threw under the bus. I mean, I'm going to take names. You put Noida police outside Ajit Bharti's house for what? You may agree, disagree with Ajit Bharti. I don't like most of the things he says or agree with it. You put that Anuradha Tiwari, you send notices under bailable. They were asking for right cause. You should have removed Dharmendra Pradhan then. I'm going one step further. He created this mess in May. So you only want to talk to those people who sort of threaten you, where you think there's street power. So this is first part of it. That is where this government is. So where Tushar says it's early Christmas, no. They will not talk to me, Tushar. They will not, because no matter what logic I bring in, I will never do violence. I will never insult. The minute I start doing that and I start acting like a chichora and get chichoras on stage, they will talk to me. It's very clear.
But Tehseen, the point is not about that only. The point is of a larger point which both Tushar and I are asking and raising is that apolitical, non-political stakeholders or crusaders, however you want to call them, will they now dictate the politics and decisions of the government? Isn't that dangerous?
That's happened because, so I'll tell you why that's happened.
Or is it also a reflection on the weakness of the opposition party?
It is. That's why it's happened. Please understand, the opposition today doesn't exist in India, Pallavi. As much as I vote for the Congress, this issue, I read your brilliant article. The Congress has come in now. Where is the opposition? And all of the opposition, okay, let's put this to test now. If you, Pallavi, put Tushar and me to test that, okay, Dharmendra Pradhan ji is gone, we all agree. What are the next steps? We will have solutions. And we can agree, disagree on the solutions to how this doesn't happen. Where in the opposition would somebody have read and come for a debate? They won't. They are all powerful kids from big families, and they will not do it. So because that vacuum is now created, that vacuum is being occupied by civil society, because in politics, you cannot have a vacuum in a democracy. It's also, where I disagree with Tushar, it's also a great reality check for BJP. You know why? Because 2 things. It shows the Prime Minister is connected to the ground, something that I have said. He realized that the anger is genuine. 2, it also shows that the BJP cannot be arrogant. The BJP had got into an arrogant mode. It was talking down to people. Some of its ministers, even a few days ago, Nishikant Dubeji, etc., they were talking down to people. It doesn't work like that in a democracy. You got to be humble. So this is a great leveler in that sense to people.
Okay.
But we are starting the ethanol protest on 31st July. I'm just plugging that in. We are doing it. 31st July, and I've tweeted Dharmendra Pradhan ji to jaki hai, Hardeep Puri aur Gadkari ji baki hai.
You know, Tushar, I covered extensively the Anna Hazare and all of that. Fraud bulao ya to bulao. The mistake which then the UPA made was sending all those 5 big ministers rushing to negotiate. This government has been a little bit more careful because, Mr. JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh, I'm not going to downplay them, but they did not have all the top ministers rushing and negotiating. They partly kept the political parties away, sending out that message that you don't really matter in our scheme of things. But do you think the bad times could begin for the government, or the Prime Minister has actually cut his losses, or was he late?
Look, Pallavi, this is a token victory. Once the euphoria dies down, which will be by this time tomorrow, people will realize that the apprehension with respect to the education sector is still there. The concerns that the youngsters have still there. It's not like the youngsters who are protesting will overnight become super skilled to take up any job in this universe because Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned. So their problems are not going away anywhere. It's just a token victory for the CJP. One we were hoping shouldn't have happened because social media movements should not dictate the mandate of the people. Now, for the BJP, this is not a political capital loss. In fact, they'll go back to the people, they'll go back to the families. The youngsters say, look, someone accused us of something. We made the changes, we did the hard miles, and we removed the minister. Now we are listening to you. So there is no reason that you cannot vote for us again, or you shouldn't, sort of look at us with any apprehension. Now, coming to what happens on Monday, that will be the important day. They have a new bill which deals with the examination system. That is the one bill they would want to pass. But Pallavi, this monsoon session was also about the FCRA. It was also about the 131st Amendment. Now, if you're telling me the trade-off is that the parliament is up and running again, that would be wonderful. I think that is where the BJP will regain a lot of its losses, whatever token losses they might have faced today. And now if the political opposition, say the Congress says, no, we want the resignation of Gadkari or Hardeep Singh Puri or Amit Shah or Narendra Modi, if the CJP or the Congress, they try to overplay their hand, then they will be walking into the trap laid by the BJP where they will be losing their political capital, and the BJP will come out as a victim and then play the same old game that, look, we want to run the parliament. We did everything they wanted us to do. And even then they have this expectation of just throwing Narendra Modi out of power. If this becomes about Narendra Modi, both CJP and Congress do not stand a chance. So the best thing for the political opposition to do is go back to the parliament, go back to things as they were before this entire charade started, and corner the BJP if you really have to in the parliament, because now it is a numbers game in the Lok Sabha. That is where the BJP will regain its lost momentum.
Okay, I'm going to go to Payal now. This because, Payal, I remember during the Anna Hazare movement, there was no direct dialogue happening between the then Prime Minister and the ones who were protesting, or, the people who agreed with that kind of protest. Here, at least the Prime Minister has used Instagram, where he's directly communicated with the students. He's also been known to be a politician and a man who knows how to bounce back and capture the narrative once again. Unlike what Tushar is saying, do you think that this may not be the end? It could actually be a new beginning, which the government will be looking at, the BJP and of course the Prime Minister himself?
Well, it's a momentary setback, no doubt whatsoever, when you have to lose one of your own because of the pressure coming in from certain quarters. But there is no doubt whatsoever, the Prime Minister has often said that, public importance, the importance of every strata of society matters the most. And if there is any political price which has to be paid for it, it is going to be paid as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the other Prime Ministers of the past, of course, back then there was no social media as prominently as it is today, as far as comparison between Manmohan Singh and Prime Minister Modi is really concerned. But the Prime Minister knows the art of communication. So whether it's a 10-year-old boy or to a 100-year-old person meeting him, Prime Minister knows the art of communication. He has a lot of anecdotes that he often shares, that being part of the communication that he really does. But the Prime Minister wasted no time when he realized that the youngsters were actually very, very angry and wanted to protest on ground. He started communicating to them in the language that they understand. He started communicating to them in the forum or the medium that they really liked. And therefore, when he began both of his video addresses that he actually did briefly yesterday and day before yesterday, it started with something like friends. And he also went on to thank them for their contribution, went on to thank them for the suggestion that they really had, and he said, "Hamara pyar bana rahega, and we'll continue to communicate." So he's not ended the door over there, he's not ended the situation over there saying that, "Oh, I promise you that we'll take action against what is happening, we'll bring in a law." But no, he says it's going to be a constant medium of communication. So, from addressing the nation on crucial issues like announcing demonetization or even announcing the COVID lockdown, the Prime Minister has also evolved over a period of time, and he understands. And therefore, for other political parties to make a joke of this is very easy. But even yesterday, in the middle of all this tension, when everything was going on, the Prime Minister, in fact, asked all his cabinet colleagues that how many of you are active on Instagram. That's a big message to communicate. That's a different aspect to communicate with the youth on this forum. All of you must get active. Make it interactive. Don't make it very boring, and don't start only putting out your videos. Make it a two-way communication as well. So in the middle of all this crisis, also the Prime Minister does not forget to give in a word of wise advice to his cabinet colleagues, to say the least.
And I'm seeing Kiran Rijiju's post The BJP President Nitin Nabin's post, all of them eulogizing the contribution of Dharmendra Pradhan. Since you cover the government and the Prime Minister's office, Payal, can you just tell our viewers, before I come back to Tehseen and Tushar, what was the relationship really between Dharmendra Pradhan and the Prime Minister?
Well, Dharmendra Pradhan has risen from the ranks, like we've been saying, that 4 decades of political life is not easy by any standard. He rose in from the ABVP from then. In fact, ABVP, when he was in the ABVP forum, that time JP Nadda was also part of his, they were part of the same team. So JP Nadda and Dharmendra Pradhan go that long, as far as their political, as far as their relationship with each other is really concerned, in terms of the family connect as well. So Dharmendra Pradhan has come in from there, and that's the reason he's been one of those faces that were very prominent as far as Odisha politics is concerned. At one point in time, he was also being considered to be that one person who could actually become the Odisha Chief Minister. That's a different thing altogether. The BJP, with the kind of mandate that they got, both here in the centre as well as in the state, they could have not really changed, or shortchanged Dharmendra Pradhan to become the Odisha leadership, but there's no doubt whatsoever he's continued to maintain his contact. For the longest, Dharmendra Pradhan was one person who would be the bridge between the centre as well as the Naveen Patnaik's government when they were in power in Odisha as well. So that's the kind of importance that he brought in. He's a very, very strong organisation person, has been holding multiple portfolios within the organisation as well. His association with Nitin Nabin has also been a very, very long time, given the fact that Dharmendra has constantly been involved in election after election, whether it's Bihar, Bengal or the others. In fact, he was in charge of Shubhendu Adhikari's constituency Nandigram in this election that concluded recently as well. So that's the kind of leadership that Dharmendra Pradhan really brings in. When 2024 was not such an impressive victory as far as the NDA was concerned, or the BJP in particular was concerned, it was Dharmendra Pradhan who was entrusted with the task of, in fact, taking over the mandate as far as Haryana elections were concerned. The first election that took place after 2024, and of course that is where Dharmendra Pradhan brought in a huge amount of victory. He's known as somebody who actually empowers people under him. A lot of people will say that, and a lot of people will swear by that, and therefore rich praises coming in from various people in his cabinet. There's Kiran Rijiju who's put that out. There's Pema Khandu.
I'm going to interrupt you here. I'm very sorry, because we're getting those first pictures of the meeting which is taking place between the CJP representatives and that of the government. This is day 3, round 3 rather, of the talks which are taking place between both the sides on schedule. And just moments after Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, you can see Saurav Das over here. You can of course see Mr. JP Nadda as well as Jitendra Singh. I'm going to try and connect with some of my colleagues on the ground, either Simran or Jasmine perhaps will be joining us. But till we do, Tehseen, I want to ask you this question, that do you think that while we wait for someone to tell us the details of what is happening in the meeting, do you think, and this was being raised by Priyanka Chaturvedi a short while back, that this is also a wake-up call for the opposition parties? Why were you not looked upon as representatives by the students of the cause?
So there are 2 reasons for it. It is right. This is the CJP failure is a failure of the opposition. And the reason for this is because you see most of the opposition is not connected to the ground with what people's issues are. And that's the stark reality of what it is. All regional parties are owned by families. That is, it's a family rule, and they're rich kids. They've come from abroad, so they will not connect to what the struggle of the common man is. It's impossible to connect. Also, there is an inherent hypocrisy when opposition parties take it up, because states that they are governing don't have a stellar report on education, so kids don't look at it. You see, what has happened, it's not just, we're using this word Gen Z a lot or Gen Alpha a lot. It's not just that. Across the world, there is one pattern that has taken place, and that is privilege is now being broken. It is happening across the world. That privilege that you're seeing has to be broken. So people are now moving away from that, and they're moving into what is a more realistic zone, maybe via social media, but privilege is being broken. I'll explain something to you also why this was slightly different, and I'll take you down a short trip. Pallavi, I remember 2011 February, a cold morning, I was passing by and you were opposite the then Prime Minister's residence. And I stopped my car and asked you, how come you're standing in a night here in the cold February morning? And you said the Prime Minister's meeting Anna Hazare he was from near my city of Pune. And I was quite stunned at why the Prime Minister even indulging. I was sitting with Anna Hazare ji. The point that I'm trying to make is Prime Minister Modi didn't make that mistake that Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had made with Anna Hazare ji. So there is also a lot of difference in the two protests. And there is one more similarity. Prime Minister Modi, as Chief Minister Modi, was amongst the first to take on Twitter and social media then. He has evolved now. The opposition hasn't done it that well. So in that sense, the Prime Minister continues, even as leader of opposition, is one step ahead in that. that. Why the opposition's lost credit is because, look, if I am going, I understand BJP is bad. Pallavi, you know I'll never vote BJP. But what is it that I'm voting for? Can you give me an alternative model that my son will get a better model? What is that model that you're putting up for me? Unless you don't have, simply saying Modi ji is bad. I agree with Tushar. Modi is bad. That's not helping. Okay, BJP is bad. I got it. But what's the alternative? If you don't give me an alternative, then a known devil is better than an unknown devil.
Okay. I'm going to go to Aman first. Aman, we got those first pictures of the meeting which is taking place between the CJP representatives and the government representatives. One demand of theirs has been accepted, which is the resignation of the Education Minister. But they're still insisting on those three demands, what they call pending. How much can the government bend then?
See, Pallavi, I think the toughest part, was the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. That was the major sticking point. Even in the yesterday's meeting, or even when the Mr. Jitendra Singh and Mr. JP Nadda had met Sonam Wangchuk, even there the government had said that they are positive about the declaration of compensation for the families of the suicide victims, in the NEET case. They were also open about maybe a public apology from the Delhi Police Commissioner or the RAF head, because the government, also there is a feeling inside the security establishment that there were certain public maybe excesses, SOP was not followed. And so that is also not, I think, such a big icebreaker, a big deal breaker, I would say. But I think the major point which yesterday also we saw at this particular meeting was that the CJP representatives were very clear that the resignation of Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan is a non-negotiable #1 demand. And I think the ministers at that time told the CJP delegation that, look, this is not our prerogative. We'll have to take this to the Prime Minister because he's a union cabinet minister. He's a colleague of ours. We can't promise this right away. We'll go back. And I think that is why I say that the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, this decision has happened within the last 24 hours. This is a decision taken in the last 24 hours because the government didn't want the situation to escalate even more. The CJP launching this candlelight march tomorrow, then nationwide agitation could have happened. The government does not want that at all. That is why it's accepted the demand of the original stakeholders and gone ahead and Mr. Pradhan has resigned. Now, if you see these pictures, and the bit I could see the body language maybe in these pictures, the CJP delegation looks very happy. You can see that Saurav Das is smiling because clearly it's a big victory for them. They have been pressing on this for almost for the last month that the minister should take moral responsibility and resign. Finally, that's happened. So I think that's a big roadblock out of the way of these negotiations. I feel that these negotiations will now get into a more constructive, positive territory because I don't think the government has any problem in paying compensation because these are, of course, youngsters who have died. They are our own youngsters, and the PM has been reaching out to the youngsters through Instagram and through his reels as well. So I think the compensation is not an issue. Public apology, maybe we'll have to wait and see in what shape and form the government agrees to that.
Okay. Now, before I go ahead, there's one more post which has come in, and this time it is from the BJP president, Nitin Nabin. And like Mr. Kiran Rijiju and the other BJP leaders, here too he praises Dharmendra Pradhan. Very quick, I'm going to do a recap. Dharmendra Pradhan ji played a pivotal role in reforming India's education landscape and successfully implementing the NEET 2021. Prioritizing larger interests, his decision to step down reflects the highest standards of integrity and selfless service. The party stands firmly with Shri Dharmendra Pradhan ji in this decision. Payal, there is no criticism of Dharmendra Pradhan, which I don't expect it to happen, but all of them are praising him. So not giving that handle to the opposition parties come Monday, that Dharmendra Pradhan had to be sacked because he was incompetent.
Yes, Dharmendra Pradhan, like he has been mentioning, has had an experience in the political battlefield for nearly 4 decades, and that couldn't have been without having some mettle to him. Of course, situation has gone out of hand and out of control for the last few weeks of last a few months, if I may say the least as well. It was under the chairmanship of Dharmendra Pradhan as the party in charge of Bihar. That is when Nitin Nabin fought his last election and won his last election as well. So obviously that is something which he really understands. Dharmendra Pradhan has had a deep connect with Bihar, where he's been the in charge for many a times. He's been the in charge of many other states as well. So therefore people in the party are saying that it will be wrong to judge that he is an incompetent person. If he was an incompetent person, he wouldn't have survived in the business of politics, survived in the opposition for that long, because the BJP has barely been in power for 12 years. But the fact of the matter is that, you can't write somebody off just because some things have gone wrong with him, in the last few weeks or few months. There is no direct, condemnation of him. There is no direct link which is there with him to show that he's the one who's taken money or done anything of that sort. There is no direct charge at him. Of course, he as a responsible person of the department, he has in fact decided to step down. that's a different thing altogether, but that cannot really, do away with the work or probably the credit that he has to himself of being an excellent parliamentarian and also being a very, very effective organization person.
Okay, we also have a reaction coming in from the former Finance Minister and the Home Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, senior Congress leader. To quote him, I have just heard the news that the Union Minister of Education has resigned. I welcome the resignation. I hope it will diffuse the situation and pave the way for discussion on the fundamental issues in Parliament and outside. You know, Aman, one, it seems to be suggesting that they are open for a debate and discussion, but that could be his point of view. He's also known to very often take a stand which is different from the rest of the party. That decision will be taken on Monday at around 10 a.m. But more importantly, the UPA knows how the unraveling takes place with one resignation after another.
Well, absolutely, Pallavi, and I think that was one concern, I would say, of the government over the past, I would say, 15 days. You know, when we were speaking to government sources and asking them that why doesn't the government take the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan and diffuse this matter, the government was always of this opinion that, this may not stop here. If today you succumb, tomorrow they, and Rahul Gandhi had already demanded the resignation of Home Minister Amit Shah the other day when he went to camp outside the Prime Minister's residence, saying that the way the police excesses have been carried out, the Home Minister is responsible. So this won't stop here. The government realizes that, but I think a major issue has been taken, the wind has been taken out of the sails of the opposition's main issue, that they will not allow any discussion in Parliament till Dharmendra Pradhan resigns. So now since Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned and Rahul Gandhi is on record saying outside Parliament even on Friday that I will not allow a discussion to happen unless Pradhan resigns. Now Pradhan has resigned, now the government will say the onus is on the Congress party, the onus is on the rest of the opposition to come to Parliament on Monday and first and foremost get this amendment bill passed, which is going to solve the issue of paper leaks once and for all. If the Congress now also creates adjournments, now also create disruptions in the House, the government will turn around and say, look, we got Dharmendra Pradhan to resign. That was your main demand. Now, if you don't participate in this debate, you're actually compromising the interests of the students of the country.
I'm going to go to you, Tushar, 1 minute, because we are going to play this a little later, but we have Rahul Gandhi's first reaction coming in. Do you think, actually, I should ask this to Tehseen, but I'm also going to ask him later. But, Tushar, it also raises... Okay, let me just go across to Rahul Gandhi's reaction, then I'll come to you. Okay, that was Rahul Gandhi's first reaction after the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Let's listen in to him.
Rebuilding our education system. It's a symbolic step because he was a symbol, but it is still a big step. And I want to congratulate every single student, every single youngster who came out on the streets and fought for democracy, fought for the future of this country and defended the Constitution. I'm proud of you. Well done. It's also a signal to other parts of society, farmers, laborers, poor people, anybody who this regime is attacking and oppressing. There is wisdom and courage in standing up. Daro mat, let's get rid of this regime that is attacking India, destroying our Constitution, capturing all our institutions. Let me remind the government, there is still 2 demands outstanding. The first one, and most important one, anybody who has raised a finger on our students, beaten them, shot at them, has to be held accountable. People who've organized it, people who've implemented it, all have to be punished. And the final demand, that the Prime Minister of India, out of respect for the students of India, out of respect for the future of India, has to apologize to the students who were brutalized and attacked. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Tushar, I'll come to you in a bit. Tehseen, he may say daro mat, he's come out with a statement. He's very careful not to congratulate the CJP or Sonam Wangchuk. He was away for 21 days, and in those 21 days, these two, that is Sonam Wangchuk plus CJP, took advantage, became the platform and the voice of the protesting students. Missed opportunity by Rahul Gandhi?
Look, whatever your point of view is on everything, the demands of the students were right. Their lives were ruined. That Aman will agree, Tushar will agree, and you, Pallavi, will agree. This, what happened was, and Dharmendra Pradhan ji may be a great administrator politically, but the administration had failed. And the anger was the last NTA chief was made Principal Secretary Chhattisgarh.
No, what I'm asking is different. I'm asking you that should Rahul Gandhi have not given the space to the CJP plus...
No,
Do you think he goofed up by disappearing for 21 days?
See, Pallavi, all of this movement that's come up, this what Tushar calls Sadak opposition, Why is it that we have to? Because I'm again telling you, Pallavi, you watched the debate on Monday. I want a solution to the problems. Unless we don't have solutions and the opposition doesn't give it, there will always be that churning, there will always be that vacuum. That vacuum is there. Okay, BJP is bad, yes, terrible, yes, get rid of them. Okay, he wants to get rid of the regime, great. What is your alternative? Can I ask you? Aman, you're a neutral guy. I take your advice a lot. Tell me, which state has got a good education system that we can look up to, that we can implement? Look, unless I have a 3-year-old son, this is personal for me. I want my son to live in a country where education is valued. He goes ahead on merit. Can somebody give me that? Yes, okay, Prime Minister Modi is bad, great. Okay, what's plan B? We've got rid of Dharmendra Pradhan. What's plan B? What is the education system? How do we improve it? Are these 3 bills enough? So somebody who's going to go to jail for 3 years will be scared because he'll go to jail for 10 years. That's not your solution. How do you bring in technology? How do you integrate it? How do you use blockchain? How do you use AI? How do you use QR unzipping so that these leaks don't take place? You can follow up. Can we have more detailed solutions, something with intellect, something with value, rather than just these rhetorical statements? I think that's where we have to focus.
Okay. Tushar, we are talking about a missed opportunity by the opposition. Do you think in the days to come, the fact that there were a bunch of apolitical entities like, say, the CJP, like a Sonam Wangchuk, it's not just the opposition who should be worried. Should the BJP also be worried that in future, the alternatives will not come from a political party, the alternatives will come from these people, and maybe the BJP will not understand how to fight these people?
Look, the core voter of the BJP is not going anywhere. And I don't think the CJP, the political project of the Aam Aadmi Party, also has any significant political capital to even dent the Congress. The Congress's core voter is safe with the Congress. The BJP's core voter is safe with the BJP. My only worry is that people will take the wrong lesson from this entire episode. They will think that they can commit to the Instagramification of Indian politics and get away with it. That every time they sit on a protest, their irrational demands will be agreed to. Please understand, Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is not the problem, but the kind of victory that the CJP is claiming, and now they have a rooster of demands apparently. This irrationality, this arrogance, that is what is going to, anger a lot of people, repel a lot of people. So these are not apolitical people. They are also just puppets that are being handled by another political masters. But I don't think the Congress will have to worry. I don't think the BJP has to worry. Beyond a day, this euphoria won't last because the problems still remain. The challenges for the generation still remain. Nothing has really changed on the ground. People who want to see otherwise can do it. But even when you had the Jan Lokpal bill being passed in 2013, it did not mean the political offshoot of the IAC really made significant inroads in 2014. It was again the BJP who won power. So, we have to be very, very clear about what's really on the ground in terms of politics, what's social media politics, and what we are seeing today. And if this has a long shelf life. I don't think this has a long shelf life. I still stick to my original statement. CJP is a temporary phenomena. It is at the end of the Aam Aadmi Party project, and the people are smart enough to see through it.
Tehseen, I'm going to take in a quick word. Aman, I'm going to come into a quick word. I remember I was there in 2011 and we were covering the IAC and Anna Hazare movement, but most of them are nowhere today. So are we making the mistake of thinking that, there are great alternatives who have arrived? I mean, the CJP and all of that may be forgotten because the BJP does have the ability, unlike the UP at that point of time, to bounce back.
Well, absolutely. Pallavi, I think that is a $1 million question. At that time, the protest of Anna Hazare or Arvind Kejriwal who protested, the BJP was able to encash that protest, that anger, and divert it, against the Congress using itself as a big, big platform. And the BJP was able to do it successfully because BJP at that time as well had a strong organizational structure on the ground, had a great leader, had a charismatic leader who came up as Narendra Modi, and, the people rallied behind him. Can the Congress take similar advantage of the CJP's protest and the anger of the students? I am not too sure because the Congress party has tried to piggyback, as you very correctly said, that actually it is Rahul Gandhi who raised the issue of NEET the most strongly and the earliest than any other leader. But then what did he do? He raised that issue, and then for 3 weeks he escaped abroad. He left abroad. Nobody knew where he was. And the CJP comes in from nowhere. Mr. Sonam Wangchuk comes in and completely steals the Congress's thunder. I think the Congress is now suffering for the last 1 week from a terrible FOMO. They are feeling that, this is something that Rahul started, and now the government is only dealing with CJP and Sonam Wangchuk. not interacting with us. That is why I think the Congress is also taking this maximalist position that, we won't let Parliament run, we won't talk till Pradhan resigns. Now Rahul Gandhi is saying this is only the start of the struggle. We want to dislodge the government. So I think Congress party has a big challenge on its hand that a outfit, nobody knew about this outfit. The CJP or even Sonam Wangchuk was in jail under NSA till a few months back, Pallavi. So these two entities can make the government see reason and government in a way succumb to take the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, which the Congress party, despite all its strengths politically, I think has not been able to do. And the government sources are making this very clear that the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is due to the pressure of the original stakeholders, not due to the pressure of the political opposition.
Payal, in the last couple of days, I would say in the last 2 to 3 days, multiple steps have been taken by the government and the lead has been taken by the Prime Minister himself, some laws and all. If you could just recap for our viewers, what are the major steps or the cracking the whip, so to say, of the PM, including the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, been so?
Well, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, over the last 48 hours or so, the Prime Minister has taken multiple steps. A is to by first announcing the fast-track court. Then, of course, the removal of the secretary who was Vinit Joshi was removed and somebody else was brought in. Multiple steps being taken to in fact, revamp and reorganize the NTA. These are some of the steps that have been taken. Of course, the Prime Minister coming out and addressing the nation, the bill being brought, that bill is going to be brought in on Monday for passage. So multiple steps being taken by the government as far as that is concerned over the last 48 hours. 47 people getting sacked from the NTA for conducts best known in terms of what they are expected to face, legal and criminal offences and criminal charges. That is something which the Prime Minister has also done as well. So obviously, Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is probably the icing on the cake, in the sense that has been the biggest demand that has been made. But look at people like Rahul Gandhi, Pallavi. He is now saying that, we'll not settle unless the Prime Minister comes out and apologizes to the students. Where is this really going to stop? From the fact that these leaders wanted a discussion on NEET to the fact they kept on harping on the process that they need to get Dharmendra Pradhan resigning, will Rahul Gandhi or will the Congress party or anybody from the opposition confirm and tell the people of the country that yes, we are going to discuss the NEET issue, yes, we are going to discuss this bill which is coming out on Monday. We give our entire support for the government purely because they want to bring justice to the students, timely justice to the students, and therefore we will participate in the discussion. Every time that the Congress party has asked for a discussion, the government is allowed for a discussion to take place. Rahul Gandhi speaks and then he goes off. So when the ministers are replying, or when the bill is being passed, he is barely there in the floor of, or barely there on the floor of the house. That actually shows you the kind of seriousness that the opposition parties have really shown. From the very beginning, the Congress party, the Samajwadi party have been discussing and have been wanting a detailed discussion on the NEET issue. They now want a discussion on the bill, which they've claimed, they said we will only discuss the bill once Dharmendra Pradhan is out. So all of these things have done. So can they in fact come out and each one of them make a commitment to the people of the country that we really mean business? It is good that we put the government under pressure. They've come up with a new law. The new law will make sure that you get justice for the students, on a timely manner, in a time-bound manner, and also give very exemplary punishment. Will they come out and really say that? That is something which the people of the country are really watching for. Of course, it's a student movement which has been hijacked by various political parties. There is no doubt whatsoever whether it is the Congress party, in fact, who felt FOMO, as the Gen Z calls it, because they could not go to the CJP protest, so they decided to protest in front of the Prime Minister's house, risking his security, or whether it is the Aam Aadmi party and the others who are trying to in fact make merry and say that, oh yes, we brought the CJP movement into effect and they are the ones who are in fact celebrating right now. So there's a lot that the people of the country want to know. Yes, you wanted all your demands to get fulfilled. The government in principle was always of the agreement that yes, we can give compensation for those people who've died by suicide because of the NEET issue. We are also very open to the fact that students shouldn't be targeted by the security forces, and if anything has happened, we will not file any cases against them. But their demands have been fulfilled. All of these demands have been fulfilled. But what about the commitment of the opposition parties now to the people of the country that we will all participate in making a very stringent law?
Okay, Tushar, that's what I want to ask you, what a point which Payal was raising and something which we also have been discussing, that now is it time for the opposition parties also to be a little gracious. Resignation done, but get back to work from Monday onwards. Help the bill, have a discussion, raise the other agendas if you want to raise.
If I am the Congress, why would I be gracious? I have smelt blood. I have realized that if it takes the social media movement and 3 political nobodies to get a cabinet minister removed, I am the political opposition. I at least have the mandate of some people. So why would I stop? I would make ethanol an issue. I would make police brutality an issue. I would make petroleum an issue. Don't expect the opposition to be gracious because the ruling party has a lot of generosity for the CJP. Let's not confuse the two issues. The BJP is being generous with the CJP, yes. The BJP is being generous with the students, yes. The BJP is taking on the issue in a very mature manner, yes. But that is not an obligation on the part of the opposition to be gracious. Rahul Gandhi is already saying that we have to get rid of the regime. He's appealing to the farmers and the laborers. Do you think the farmers of Punjab are not listening? Do you think the farmers of Punjab are not going to make the India-US trade deal a contentious issue and say our interests are threatened? Do you think the laborers are not going to make it about the 4 codified labor laws? So the opposition now will be expected to mobilize everyone they can, because they have realized if you cannot beat BJP at the electoral booth, or you cannot beat them in the parliament on their game, let's do it on the streets. That is where this entire precedent is wrong. Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation or the revamping of NTA is not a problem. My problem is that you do not give social media movements the same pedestal
but
you would
was
have
the
given the
government even
political
left with any
opposition.
choice? Was the Prime Minister left with any choice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Multiple choices.
You don't ask him to resign?
Absolutely not. Come on, Pallavi. Are you telling me CJP, which is a political offshoot of Aam Aadmi Party, will now dictate terms to the government? Look at your screen right now. Saurav Das is a freelancer for a digital newspaper. Ashutosh Ranka, the way he was addressing the cabinet ministers from the stage, do you think it's going to be accepted by the voters of India? Look, the voters of India may have the disagreements with political parties across age groups, but they do not like the government they have elected, even in the opposition, to be demeaned by 20-somethings. That is not how political perception and public perception works. And that is where the CJP and this acceptance of the CJP, this generosity on the part of the BJP, that is going to, be a little, it's going to be something that will anger the voters, but not deter their political capital. So let's not confuse a lot of issues. But to answer your question, I don't think the opposition is going to be gracious. We just heard Rahul Gandhi. He's talking about getting rid of the regime. So it just tells you what the intent of the opposition is.
Okay. Tehseen, since you are also running this Team Bharat and maybe you also smelt blood and you will also want to do this kind of hangama and hoping for a certain amount of success. But as someone who's also been a political analyst, someone who's also been associated with politics of it, do you think this is a dangerous precedence? I'm not talking about you, but generally, as Tushar was pointing out, that a social media campaigns is running the politics of the country.
So again, let me just come to my campaign to come to this. Nitin Gadkari ji is the last. There are genuine solutions we want, and we are being positive. We are offering solutions. We are not saying the ethanol policy is bad. We are saying the implementation, there are certain lacunas which you can address. But there is a conflict of interest with Nitin Gadkari ji promoting ethanol and his kids being in the ethanol business, and he threatening journalists. That doesn't work in a democracy. That has got nothing to do with social media. He needs to stop threatening people, and he needs to acknowledge that he's in a conflict of interest, which he needs to stay away from. That is the first part of our campaign. But yes, ultimately, the laws have to be made in Parliament. Sansad will make the laws. Supreme Court will adjudicate whether it is ultra-wise to the Constitution or no. And people have a right on the Sadak to protest the laws or demand the laws. One cannot override the other. Our constitutional framework gives way for all three, Sadak, Sansad and Supreme Court. But laws can only and only be made in the Sansad. It can be protested on the Sadak. It can be struck down by the Supreme Court, but neither does the Honorable Supreme Court can make laws, neither can Sadak make laws. I'm very clear on that. But our protest is not about making a law. Our protest is about the lacuna in what is existing in a policy and the conflict of interest one minister shares with it.
Okay. Again, Tushar, I'm just going to... Okay, Payal is still with us. Payal, at this point of time, is there some developments happening within the government at this point of time? The Prime Minister is meeting with the Home Minister. And, both of them, especially the Home Minister, is always been the troubleshooter and also one of the closest ones to the Prime Minister. The image of the party, is that, and the government, is that something which they could be possibly worried about, or they know that they have a formula where at the end of the day, they know how to hit back and bounce back?
Yeah, it would be completely wrong to say that, everything is okay, everything is hunky and dory. The pressure has definitely been felt by the government. There is no doubt whatsoever. But, the fact is that they are trying to gradually make sure that they are able to ease the pressure. The fact that students were on the street, the fact that students wanted certain demands to be fulfilled, that actually made the Prime Minister take these decisions effectively. Like I've been telling you till yesterday when we were interacting with multiple ministers, top ministers in the Modi government, there was no clue whatsoever whether something like this would follow in the next 24 hours. But come the hour and come the decision as well. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has never been shy of taking decisions which are tough as well. Withdrawing of the farmer bills was also one tough decision, but he took it in the larger interest. In fact, as far as the trade deal is concerned, you remember there was a lot of concern that was expressed among the public. Back then also the Prime Minister said, if there is a political price which I need to pay, I will pay for it, because nothing comes in more important than what my citizens mean to my country and mean to me as well. So that's something which of course we'll have to wait and see. But what comes out of it, who becomes the minister next, what happens, will you have a reshuffle in the middle of the parliament session? Will there be an urgency which is going to be stepped in? Will Dharmendra Pradhan be brought back to the organization? All of these questions are something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi definitely will be discussing with his top lieutenants, whether it's Union Home Minister, who's been one of his closest confidant, not just in the centre here in Delhi, but all through his regime in Gujarat as well.
Yes.
Nitin Nabin, the newly appointed BJP president, is still waiting for his team to come. He will also have a thing or two to add over here. The General Secretary organization is also a very active politician. He will also have a thing to say.
Okay, Payal, I'm sorry I have to cut you short. We are running out of time here at this point of time. Yes, that's a big question. Will Dharmendra Pradhan be reinstated into the organization, or will he get another portfolio? Well, going in through all the praises that he's getting from his colleagues in the party and government, who knows? But that's all we have time for now. But news continues over here on CNN News 18 with the big story, which we broke here first, the resignation of the Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan. Quickly come back to you, but I'm going to go through skim through the copy of that 2-page letter which has been released by Dharmendra Pradhan himself. No longer the Education Minister, he stepped down as an Education Minister. It's a 2-page emotive letter. I'm just going to read out a couple of lines from it, a very emotive letter. He says, मैं पिछले 4 दशकों से अधिक समय से छात्र, शिक्षक और शिक्षा सुधार के लिए समर्पित रहा हूँ. मेरा सदैव यही विश्वास रहा है कि एक सशक्त, समावेशी और दूरदर्शी शिक्षा व्यवस्था ही सशक्त राष्ट्र की आधारशिला होती है. And then he goes down. We are just going to scroll down, and basically he talks about the fact of how the NEET UG की परीक्षा में सामने आई अनियमितता पाई गई. That is the irregularities which were found in the NEET UG exams of 3rd May 2026, and this was taken immediate cognizance of. The entire investigation was put to the CBI. CBI की जांच को सौंपा गया और परीक्षा को रद्द किया गया. So this is a computer-based test, the new mode which was brought in, and then he talks about the entire government approach. So basically what he's saying in this 2-page letter is the steps which have been taken by the government to ensure that there's a change in the examination system. No time was wasted, guilty were arrested, more steps are being taken. This is a 2-page letter which has been put out by Dharmendra Pradhan. Now, Payal, everyone says that no one resigns, but look, would you say in the last 2 to 3 days, the timing is also very significant. Not just the CJP government talks, but also the big bill coming up on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to go across to Arunima. Would you say that the timing is significant, coming just a couple of hours, maybe an hour or so before the CJP government talks which were supposed to take place, but more importantly, the Monday morning possibility of the introduction of the big bill?
BJP government talks were supposed to be at 3 o'clock, but it has been delayed by at least an hour. And that's because CJP, even yesterday, when they left the Constitution Club, they made it a point to say that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is non-negotiable. And once they went back to Jantar Mantar, in repeated media and social media posts and interviews, they kept reiterating that there's no point talking to the government if they're not going to be flexible on the issue of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So this kind of a maximalist position that, the CJP had taken, that the student protesters had taken, I think that finally forced Dharmendra Pradhan's hand. He says it very categorically in that letter, ये मेरे व्यक्तिगत प्रतिष्ठा का सवाल नहीं है. This is not a question about my personal interest or my ego. It is about the larger interest of the student community. And if it is my resignation which is going to ensure that they go back to the classrooms, they go back to the university, then so be it. But the CJP also will have to now wait and see when they come back at 4 o'clock to the negotiating table with the government. Will they walk the talk and withdraw the protest? If they keep moving the goalpost, because yesterday they said we have 3 demands, 2 of which the government is very positive on. The third was Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So now that big obstruction has been removed. Will CJP walk the talk? Will we see an
Back to you.
announcement from
Arunima, I'm sorry to interrupt you over here. We are getting the first Congress reaction. Rashid Alvi is now joined. Quickly come back to you, but I'm going to go through skim through the copy of that two-page letter which has been released by Dharmendra Pradhan himself. No longer the Education Minister. He stepped down as an Education Minister. It's a two-page emotive letter. I'm just going to read out a couple of lines from it. A very emotive letter. He says, मैं पिछले 4 दशकों से अधिक समय से छात्र, शिक्षक और शिक्षा सुधार के लिए समर्पित रहा हूं। मेरा सदैव यही विश्वास रहा है कि एक सशक्त, समावेशी और दूरदर्शी शिक्षा व्यवस्था ही सशक्त राष्ट्र के आधारशिला होती है. And then he goes down. We're just going to scroll down and basically he talks about the fact of how the NEET UG की परीक्षा में सामने आई अनियमितता पाई गई. That is the irregularities which were found in the NEET UG exams of 3rd May 2026, and this was taken immediate cognizance of. The entire investigation was put to the CBI. CBI की जांच को सौंपा गया और परीक्षा को रद्द किया गया. So this is a computer-based test, the new mode which was brought in, and then he talks about the entire government approach. So basically what he's saying in this two-page letter is the steps which have been taken by the government to ensure that there's a change in the examination system. No time was wasted, guilty were arrested, more steps are being taken. This is a two-page letter which has been put out by Dharmendra Pradhan. Now Payal, everyone says that no one resigns, but look, would you say in the last 2 to 3 days, the timing is also very significant. Not just the CJP government talks, but also the big bill coming up on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to go across to Arunima. Would you say that the timing is significant, coming just a couple of hours, maybe an hour or so before the CJP government talks which were supposed to take place, but more importantly, the Monday morning possibility of the introduction of the big bill?
BJP government talks were supposed to be at 3 o'clock, but it has been delayed by at least an hour. And that's because CJP, even yesterday, when they left the Constitution Club, they made it a point to say that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is non-negotiable. And once they went back to Jantar Mantar, in repeated media and social media posts,
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into CNN News 18. I'm Poonam Burde. You're watching our non-stop rolling coverage over what's transpiring in the national capital here. It's the biggest development so far as the NEET protest, the movement is concerned, and the opposition's criticism of fixing accountability. Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned as the Education Minister. He submitted his resignation to the Prime Minister, and that has now given ammunition both to the CJP and to the opposition to claim this as their victory. This is vindication of the students' movements, they say. They also say that this is only the beginning. There was a list of 3 demands that was given by the CJP to the union ministers that they met over the 2 rounds. In fact, the 3rd round of discussions and negotiations between the CJP and the government is currently underway even as we speak. They have 2 more demands which they claim are non-negotiable. So it's not that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is the only way out for this impasse to end. This political earthquake that we are seeing here after the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is also marked as a monumental victory for the students that have led this agitation. Sonam Wangchuk, who was believed to be the face of this agitation, who was on a hunger strike for 26 days before he met with 2 union ministers and ended that strike, his wife came out and said that the Gen Z of this country and the movement, they really are the Vishwaguru of this country. This is how change will happen. Whether this means that Parliament will function next week or not, we don't know just yet, because this was the one key issue that had held up the Parliament in the first week of the monsoon session last week. There was absolutely very little business done, or none that was done in that first week, because the opposition was adamant that unless Dharmendra Pradhan resigns, the Parliament will not function. So now that the resignation has come to the fore, will now we see accountability being fixed in the Parliament as well? That's really the big question. The opposition, meanwhile, has come out to capitalize on this resignation. Not only are they thanking the students for this, but they're also claiming credit for raising the voice of the students. Leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, in fact, congratulated the students who took to the streets to protect their future. He expanded on his attack to demand an explicit apology from the Prime Minister next. Priyanka Gandhi too chimed in. She said that the youth had taught the government a lesson, but she too said that this was just the beginning. So the demands coming in both from the CJP and the opposition haven't just ended with Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation.
Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is a huge step in rebuilding our education system. It's a symbolic step because he was a symbol, but it is still a big step. And I want to congratulate every single student, every single youngster who came out on the streets and fought for democracy, fought for the future of this country, and defended the Constitution. I'm proud of you. Well done. It's also a signal to other parts of society, farmers, laborers, poor people, anybody who this regime is attacking and oppressing. There is wisdom and courage in standing up. Daro mat, let's get rid of this regime.
Dharmendra Pradhan penned a 2-page letter and put out on social media as he announced his resignation, and this is what he went on to write in that 2-page letter when he announced his resignation and that he was submitting it to the Prime Minister. He says, for decades, at least 4 of them, I have ensured that I dedicate my life to the purpose and to the cause of the students. He says, I took responsibility of the situation from day one. He then goes on to say that he has respected the aspirations and sentiments and legitimate expectations of the youth of this country. The decision to resign is solely mine, is what Dharmendra Pradhan has also gone on to say now. He then says that he never turned away from this challenge, that from day one he had taken certain steps, and that's something that he highlighted in this letter. He then says that there were multiple attempts that were made to mislead the students, hinting at the politics that we have seen over the last 2 weeks, politics that has stalled the parliament as well. Dharmendra Pradhan then making it very clear that the exam mafia who have been running rampant, running amok in this country, they will be taught a lesson, will not allow this mafia to ruin the future of the students of this country, was a clear message that he sent out. He also then said that we will not permit any injustice towards or against any student. That is something that this government will take care of, was what Dharmendra Pradhan wrote in that letter. He says this is not a matter of personal prestige for me, but this is a matter that ails the future of this country and the students of this country, which is why he has decided to take this step to resign. I am deeply pained by the events of the past 10 days, he's gone on to say in this particular letter. He then says that I have submitted my resignation to the Prime Minister, and this is that 2-page letter that he put out on social media announcing his resignation. He also then says that our primary priority was the smooth conduct of the examination, which is why that re-examination was held and held as swiftly as it could have been done. That's something the Prime Minister had also highlighted, remember, during his video message that he had put out late last night, 2 days ago, where he said that the priority was for a successful re-examination so that an entire year does not get wasted, and that is what was done. That's something that has been echoed now by Dharmendra Pradhan as well as he resigns as the Education Minister. My colleague Jasmine now joins us, getting us more details on this. Jasmine, we are seeing some sort of celebratory scenes coming in from Jantar Mantar as well. The meeting between the government and the CJP representatives, is that still underway?
So at this point, the meeting is over, but we are yet to see what really comes out of the meeting. There is definitely a sense of relief, of victory at the Jantar Mantar. The protesters are certainly happy, but there's also a sense of the government. I mean, till a few hours back, the protesters were wondering if the government will sack Dharmendra Pradhan or will he give resignation. But now the conversation has become about among the protesters and also the CJP that what else will the government do? Because the CJP is constantly asking for the government for also fulfilling the other demands that they had. The central demand obviously was the Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, and that definitely has been fulfilled, but the other demands that they had posed, that's still underway, and that's what the CJP is continuously still doing. And the protesters on the ground are also definitely under the leadership of CJP, are also following that and also kind of still wondering what else can be done. Definitely there's a sense of happiness and, so, as I said, sense of relief. So people are moving out of Jantar Mantar, but we are not sure if this crowd will fully evaporate as well or not.
I don't know if this is going to end the impasse, if this is the end of those protests that we have seen at Jantar Mantar. For the moment though, Jasmine, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. We'll of course keep an eye out on what transpires or what transpired in that meeting between the 2 union ministers and 2 representatives of the CJP that have been leading this protest, at least at Jantar Mantar. Let's open this up. GVL Narasimha Rao, senior leader of the BJP, is with us. Nishant Anand, spokesperson of the Congress. Karan Verma, political analyst. And Vijayda Daya, ex-spokesperson of the CJP, is with us as well. Vijayda Daya, let me begin by asking you, is this where the protest ends? Is this where this movement that has been going on for over 3 weeks at Jantar Mantar?
I'm not able to hear you properly, ma'am. Like very, very low volume.
We'll try and fix that, but I was asking you about the recent development, and will this mark the end of the Jantar Mantar protest?
Ma'am, it's a great day for the whole country. I would like to extend my congratulations to the entire. It is like a reclaiming of our democracy, where some people, they had that kind of an aristocratic arrogance that they can do anything. And I was saying it again and again that it is a public office. It is not, some kind of private office. And if you have not performed well, you must resign. So finally, the resignation has happened, and the democracy has been reclaimed. And I hope that this kind of democratic fervor retains in the. And yeah, I mean, it has been a big win, and I hope that it will open a door for systemic reforms, which will help to achieve admission of zero paper leaks.
But do you think this is where the CJP should come out and say that this is our primary objective and we will now ensure that we work in tandem with the government to ensure that the future is secured, that the future is better?
Yeah, I mean, CJP has been saying that. Yeah, of course. I mean, that has been the objective of CJP, to secure the future of students and to see that there are zero paper leaks. And what puzzles me are the two other demands. Why is the government dilly-dallying on them? Because those demands, they are like very simple demands, just some monetary compensation for the families of NEET victims. And we have seen that lakhs of crores are of NPA, of millionaires. I mean, that is great. So this is just a matter of 20 or 22 crore bucks, that's all. And, the same thing about the FIRs on protesters, they can be quashed. And I hope that these two things also happen soon.
Well, GVL Narasimha Rao, so two more demands were put forth, or three demands in totality were put forth by the CJP, which they claimed were non-negotiable. One of them is done, which is the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Will the government concede on the other two as well?
I think a delegation of the students is already in a meeting with two senior ministers, Honorable Sri Naddaji, who's our former national president, also a senior minister in the government. So is Dr. Jitendra Singh, who looks after the DOPT and also a minister in the PMO. I think we hope, certainly, we are very confident, a very positive outcome will come out. And the students who've been on a protest for several days, I think they will certainly see reason and end the protest. The reason why Mr. Pradhan has resigned voluntarily is how this has really how this is going to affect the careers of students, their own future prospects. He has eloquently stated that in his letter. So I think beyond this, if any further demands are made, I think it will only seem unreasonable. I think we should see the end of this protest hopefully today itself.
Anand, the biggest demand of the opposition also was, and the primary demand of why the parliament didn't function all of last week, was that Dharmendra Pradhan must go. Now that he has resigned, should the other demands then also be, there should be some concessions that are being made by the opposition too? Otherwise, the stalemate is never going to end.
Good evening to all. See, the government finally changed the teacher. The nation is still waiting for the lesson to change. Yes, today it's a victory for India's youth, but we cannot forget from the last 12 years, 152 paper leaks. We cannot forget that how they used tear gas, pellet guns on the students. This is the boy who Rahul Gandhi ji met yesterday, and we can see in the picture, he has lost his eyes. We cannot forget 25 students who have suicided. We cannot forget Congress leadership, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi ji were mishandled, and he was bleeding. See, this is a victory for the people, a win for all those who fought for accountability in our system. But Dharmendra Pradhan had become the face of a broken education system of unemployment, corruption in the education sector. And the police, nobody has taken the accountability for the lathi charge and all that treatment which has been given to the student. And this was never about one minister. The fight was and still is against a system that failed an entire generation.
But the opposition did make it about this one minister, and that is why the parliament didn't function all of last week, Nishant Anand.
See, that was a primary condition, but it was not the only condition, because if you have to fix the problem, you have to first ask for a removal of a minister who's been taken care of from last 5 years. The government mocked the youth of this country. It underestimated Gen Z, but they refused to back down. Today, one resignation cannot fix the entire education system. It cannot give the answers to the parents who have lost their children. It cannot answer the people who have lost their eye. It was the government's arrogance, and that is why Dharmendra Pradhan had to resign today. Rahul Gandhi ji said it very clearly today. Narendra Modi is in India's past, and students are our future. And the past can never fight the future. And it's time for BJP government to understand. And one more thing, since the movement of the NEET paper leak, the Congress and Rahul Gandhi ji, not just the Chhatron Ki Goonj program, we've been working it from last 7-8 years. We have been telling about the NEET and all the papers which has been getting leaked. There was no step was taken. Today, the two demands still remain. The Prime Minister must apologize to the students and show respect for the future of India. Second, those responsible for the violence against students must be held accountable. And this is also a message to every section of society, to farmers, workers, and the poor, and everyone who has faced suppression under this government. The real courage lies in standing up for your rights through peaceful and constitutional means.
And that's the most important bit, peaceful and constitutional, because when the violence occurred on the 20th of July, we saw not only students who got hurt, but also policemen who got hurt. So accountability needs to be fixed on both ends, Karan Verma, isn't it?
I think today is a day when the BJP government walked into a trap and it completely succumbed to the pressure, the street power. And it's a sad day because time and again they've got a mandate to maintain law and order, not to succumb to a protest like this, which was discredited from the word go. It was never about students. Dharmendra Pradhan should have resigned 3 months back. But then the BJP government at the center was too arrogant to listen to that. Today, when push came to shove and when street power wreaked havoc, 125 police officials got injured, that is when the BJP government decides to succumb to pressure. So unfortunately, it sends a very, very wrong signal. It sets a very bad precedent. And it's sad, honestly, because time and again, when right-minded people were proposing that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign after the UGC humiliation, after the first NEET leak itself 2 years back, then the government doubled down. But today it succumbed to pressure. So that shows the government in a weak light. I think they completely mishandled it. I still don't want to give legitimacy to what happened at Jantar Mantar, because there were a lot of thugs also there. There were a lot of anti-national slogans there. I don't want to give credence to that. Having said that, the cause was 100% justified. The paper leaks that were happening, and that's happened across all governments, by the way. Our good friend from Congress here, it's good to see him wax eloquent, but he must remember what was happening in Rajasthan when the Congress was in power from 2018 to 23, or for that matter, what's happened in Punjab a couple of days back under the AAP government, where they cracked down on genuine students. So it's hypocrisy all over, but then it's the BJP to be blamed. When you have a weak government at the center that bows down to street power, this is what happens.
And those demands, those demands were legitimate. Well, Priyanka Gandhi herself, Nishant Anand, Priyanka Gandhi herself has been quoted saying this, that yes, we know it's a problem in Rajasthan, which is why we brought in a law. This was under Mr. Gehlot as the Chief Minister. So even before I list, or anybody lists the number of paper leaks that have happened, there has been admission from the Congress that paper leaks used to happen in Rajasthan.
You want me to answer?
Yes, please.
See, Ashok Gehlot ji yesterday clearly stated in the media that before 2018, the BJP government has 12 paper leaks in Rajasthan. When Congress took over the government, it was only one exam which happened, wherein on the same day, the 200 people were caught. Charge sheet was filed for 60 people and the action was taken immediately. See, now understand, the time has come to change this government. Every time we cannot go back and say Congress did this, Congress did that. 152 paper leaks, 7.5 crore students has faced this in the last 12 years. And I will also highlight our demands for punishment of those who attacked our students, because I spoke to this person yesterday who got attacked by pellet guns. He has completely lost his one eye and the second eye is getting treated. It is not, he has lost the second eyesight for 40-50%. See, however, I'll say last thing, however, our movement for reforms in the education sector will continue until we bring fairness in the system, reduce the pressures faced by students and improve the quality of education. Congress will not rest. We will continue. And to all the boys and girls who
So Congress will continue, GVL Narasimha Rao. If that means stalling the parliament again on for more days, we don't know if that's going to be the strategy, because there is also a bill that the government intends to bring sometime next week to only strengthen the current law. Do you expect the opposition to back you on that?
The Congress and Rahul Gandhi are utterly shameless. I think they piggy ride on any movement. They land up everywhere, wherever there is a genuine protest I think they try and claim credit. In this entire episode, the Congress is nowhere. Rahul Gandhi had
Gandhi is
zero
shameless.
credibility,
Dharmendra Pradhan
and
is
the
a hero
Congress governments
who
have
has
never
made
controlled it.
93 students
Even in
suicide.
Telangana, where the Congress is in power, leaks have happened. So it's a systemic problem. We are not saying it's only a one-party related problem. So now that Mr. Pradhan has shown the way, will the Congress governments, AAP government, will they follow suit? Will they voluntarily resign? Will they show any
The
sense of
time has come to
a
change this
modicum
corrupt
of
government.
Change the government, sir, but in a
morality?
democracy that's done via elections.
Yes,
Yes, so let's do it in the democratic way. Let's not ensure that governments are changed by the kind of violence that we saw on the 20th of July. That's not what a healthy democracy like India should
I won't be
witness.
surprised if Rahul Gandhi on Monday morning
This is what BJP
claims
does.
credit for it, because that will be utterly shameless on his part and Congress's part.
Well,
But if they continue to block the session, even after government has agreed to let's say a
This is a
debate,
shameless
and
government. You can see there is still
after
no
minister
apology
himself has
by the Home
voluntarily
Minister or the
resigned,
BJP
I think
ministers
Congress
what
will
they have
only
done
be
to the
exposing
students.
itself. Congress will only expose itself, and debate
Don't
will.
worry about
And governments changing or no is for the people of this country, voters of this country to decide. And when elections are here, we'll find out what the people have decided. That is not for the governments of the day at the center or at the state to succumb under pressure, as Karan Verma was pointing to violence. And that's something that should not be tolerated. That's not healthy for a democracy like ours. But I request you all three gentlemen to stay on with us. My colleague Arunima is also joining us live. She was at Jantar Mantar just a short while ago, I believe. What was the scenes like there, Arunima? We did see some sort of celebration that was coming in from Jantar Mantar. There was some sort of untoward incident, or at least an inkling of that was being reported as well?
Yes, the internet is still down, so we can't come to you live from Jantar Mantar, but we have come to Vijay Chowk, where we are getting some mobile signal to report this live. That short ground report from Jantar Mantar, maybe we can play it out for our viewers. Essentially, what we captured at Jantar Mantar is a sense of euphoria. A lot of students were seen leaving that Jantar Mantar lane. The stage was still occupied by people who were cheering. A lot of them still shooting their reel, hoping that once they get signal, they will be able to uplink it. I came across two young girls, class 11 student who had come all the way from Jaipur over the weekend to be part of the protest. They were going back. They said most of our demands have been met. Another young professional from Sarojini Nagar said that, you know, even though they are still waiting for that official word from the Rashtrapati, which is the procedure, and they were well aware that the procedure is that the Rashtrapati must put out an official communique accepting the resignation of a union minister, yet they felt that their job has mostly been done. The third point that we noted there was the heavy police deployment, no surprise, and the police announcing every 2-3 minutes that such and such metro station is now open. People who want to go back, they can access the metro station. So all these metro stations in the vicinity, be it Central Secretariat, be it Barakhamba, be it Rajiv Chowk, they are now being opened up for people to take the metro and go back to their respective place. Each of these announcements were again being greeted by a lot of claps. So overall, the congregation there felt that their demands have been met. They can now go back home. But they were also saying we'll wait and see what this negotiation that is going on at Constitutional Club, stone's throw from where we are coming to you live from, what that negotiation finally leads to.
Well, Arunima, thank you so much for getting us those details. We'll have to see what comes out of that meeting. But like Arunima was pointing out, she was at Jantar Mantar just a short while ago to give us a sense of what exactly was transpiring there. Let's take a look.
At the entrance point of Jantar Mantar, this is the road that takes you to the Jantar Mantar stage. There is a heavy police deployment, and there are also crowd which is still milling over, all with phones in their hands, trying to capture the moment, trying to showcase what this moment when Dharmendra Pradhan has stepped down means to them. They all, there's one person here who has Shahid Bhagat Singh's picture in his hand, so that iconography is complete. But like I was telling you, most of them have phones in their hand, capturing this particular moment. As far as police bandobast is concerned, police bandobast is also very, very tight here. While we were coming towards the Jantar Mantar side, we did see that at a number of places, auto rickshaws and taxis were being stopped, and the people were being asked, the passengers were being asked what their purpose was to come towards the India Gate area. Posters like that where it says that, section 166 of the BNS, which was earlier section 144, that is in place. And you know, they're also continuing to hold posters here with the Prime Minister's face on it, various kinds of posters here. These youngsters, some of them ecstatic. Let me see if I can get in a word with them. Hi, excuse me, hi. I just wanted to get a word with you. You have a dream, you say. What is this moment where Mr. Pradhan has stepped down? What does it mean to you?
It means a lot to me. I'm incredibly happy that he has resigned, and now the demand is...
Like I was telling you about police bandobast, see, there are announcements being made that you know, metro station has been reopened. That was the announcement which was greeted with a lot of claps here. I saw you clapping. What was the announcement there which got you elated?
All the metro stations are open right now.
So now the crowd is going back?
Some of them, but some of them are still celebrating.
All right. And see, you see there, some people are still clapping. You know, this is a moment that they feel where the reason they were protesting, that reason has been fulfilled. So, you know, at Jantar Mantar, some people feel that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is just step one.
Well, we have some information that's now trickling in as to what was the reason behind Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, what was the inside story really, and this is what we're learning. The timing of the resignation was extremely important. The aim was to prevent students from becoming political soft power, is what we're learning via our sources within the government. Now, the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan after the kind of protests that we saw is a political and administrative strategy. Aman now joins us, getting us more details on this. Aman, what more can you share with us?
See, Poonam, that is what the top government sources are telling our internal security editor Manoj Gupta, that this is a very, very careful political as well as administrative move. The government realizes that the students who are the original stakeholders of this protest have some valid concerns, that the issue of NEET leak is actually a major issue. The repeated leakage of examinations is a major issue which has angered students, which has upsetted students, and the government is aware of this, government is cognizant of this, and that is why Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned, because this was the big demand of the students that this should be a non-negotiable, and Mr. Pradhan has to resign. The other information that is providing is that this is also an acknowledgement of an oversight maybe, you know, over the entire mechanism, because we the NTA, you know, there have been changes made in the NTA as well over the last few days, but there was maybe some level of oversight, and that has also been, that PM also accepted that the concerns in a way raised by the students are genuine. And the Prime Minister spoke to students 2 days back in his midnight video address. He said that he was pained and he understands the pain of the lakhs of students and their parents because the exams leaked. At the same time, the Prime Minister and Mr. Pradhan also in his resignation letter today says that we made all the attempts, you know, we moved heaven and earth to ensure that the re-NEET exam happened without a glitch in the shortest possible time, so that the 1 year of the students was not wasted. But that said, you know, what sources are telling Manoj Gupta, that, you know, it's also a very clear feeling inside the government that some anti-national elements were trying to misguide the students at Jantar Mantar, maybe, you know, take this protest into a different direction, which could have been very dangerous. And Mr. Pradhan has also mentioned that in his resignation letter, that I don't want anti-national elements to exploit the genuine anger and the genuine upsetting of the students and make this protest into something very violent.
To interrupt you there, Aman, but these visuals that are just coming in are of JP Nadda, Union Minister, who's just about to brief the media after their meeting with the CJP representatives. This was round 3 of that meeting. In fact, this is a joint statement that we're seeing from the CJP and the 2 union ministers. Well, this was, like I said, round 3 of the meeting between the 2 sides. 3 demands were put forth by the CJP. The first one was the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, which has happened. They claimed that the other 2 were also non-negotiable. Have there been any concessions on that front? We'll find out in just a few minutes when that press conference begins. Well, even as we're standing by for that press briefing to begin, the 2 representatives of the CJP there seated along with JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh.
कुछ दिनों में 3 राउंड डिस्कशन सरकार की डेलीगेशन के साथ हमारे हुए हैं। 37 दिनों से जो हमारा जंतर मंतर पर प्रदर्शन चल रहा था, उस प्रदर्शन की 3 मुख्य मांगे थी। धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी का इस्तीफा, जो भी लीगल केसेस प्रोटेस्टर्स पे, ऑर्गेनाइजर्स पे फाइल किए गए हैं, उन FIRs को, उन केसेस को विड्रॉ किया जाए और कोई भी फ्यूचर केसेस प्रोटेस्टर्स या ऑर्गेनाइजर्स के साथ के अगेंस्ट ना लिए जाए। और तीसरी डिमांड हमारी थी 1 करोड़ का कॉम्पनसेशन उन परिवारों के लिए जिन्होंने नीट का पेपर लीक होने के बाद अपनों को खो दिया। आज अभी कुछ देर पहले धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी ने इस्तीफा दे दिया है, जिसका मतलब हमारी पहली मांग, जो इस पूरी प्रोटेस्ट की पहले दिन से मांग थी, 6 जून को जब हम पहली बार जंतर मंतर आए थे, तो धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी ने इस्तीफा दे दिया है, जिसका मतलब है कि हमारी पहली मांग जो है मान ली गई है।
साथ साथ जो हम लोगों की दूसरी मांग थी कि सारे FIRs जो सारे प्रोटेस्टर्स के खिलाफ फाइल किए गए हैं अभी तक, सिर्फ दिल्ली में नहीं लेकिन सारे BJP रूल्ड और BJP एलाइड स्टेट्स में वो FIRs विड्रॉ हो जाए, ये भी हमारी सेकंड मांग थी। सरकार ने वो मांग को भी मान लिया है। साथ साथ ये जो विड्रॉल है वो शॉर्टली हो जाएगा। जो FIRs फाइल हो चुके हैं, जितना हमें लास्ट इंफॉर्मेशन के मुताबिक 15 से 20 FIRs दिल्ली में फाइल हुए हैं, वो सारे FIRs की कॉपी सरकार ने अश्योर किया है कि शॉर्टली हमारे साथ शेयर करेंगे। एंड जो कॉपीज है वो 3 से 4 दिन के अंदर इन एनी केस हमें मिल जाएगी। जो विड्रॉल है वो भी शॉर्टली सरकार ने अश्योर किया है कि विड्रॉ हो जाएंगे। साथ साथ इन्होंने ये भी हम लोगों ने एग्री किया है कि फ्यूचर में कोई भी एक्शन नहीं लिया जाएगा किसी भी प्रोटेस्टर के खिलाफ एंड CJP की जो टीम है, जो ऑर्गेनाइजर्स है, उनके खिलाफ। इसी चीज का अंडरस्टैंडिंग में हम लोगों ने सरकार के साथ एक ड्राफ्ट शेयर किया है। जो गारंटी है रिटन में, वो सरकार ने बोला है कि हमारे साथ वो ट्यूसडे तक शेयर करेंगे। हमें आशा है कि ट्यूसडे तक जो गारंटी है सरकार के तरफ से इन राइटिंग ये FIRs के बारे में और इन एनी फ्यूचर एक्शन के बारे में, वो हमें मिल जाएगी।
तो आप लोग फॉलो अप कर रहे हैं जो 1 करोड़ का कॉम्पनसेशन हमने नीट विक्टिम्स की फैमिलीज के लिए मांगा था, उसके लिए सरकार की तरफ से सहमति बन रही है कि जो भी रूल्स और रेगुलेशंस के तहत कॉम्पनसेशन पॉसिबल होगा, एक ऑनररी कॉम्पनसेशन उन फैमिलीज को दिया जाएगा। इसके अलावा हम लोगों ने एक 5 पॉइंट का डिमांड चार्टर भी सरकार के समक्ष रखा था, जिसमें ब्रॉडर एजुकेशनल रिफॉर्म्स, एग्जाम रिफॉर्म्स की बात की गई थी। सरकार से हम लोग लगभग 4 हफ्ते में एक बार फिर से मिलेंगे उस डिमांड चार्टर को लेकर, ताकि हम लोग मिलकर एक ब्रॉडर रिफॉर्म्स पर साथ में काम कर पाए। अगर ये सभी मांगे सरकार को एग्रीएबल है तो देन वी वुड लाइक टू ऑल्सो विड्रॉ। सर, मे बी इफ यू कैन।
मित्रों, ये आज हमारे सौरभ दास और रंका जी के साथ तीसरी मुलाकात है और आज भी लंबी बातचीत हुई। ये आज एक रिटन मसौदा लेकर के आए थे, जिसमें उन्होंने एजुकेशन में चल रहे केसेस के बारे में 4 पॉइंट्स दिए थे और उसके साथ साथ जो बाकी 2 डिमांड्स थी, रिटेलिएटरी मेजर्स न लिए जाए, कंपनसेशन दिया जाए और इनके 5 पॉइंट चार्टर को कंसिडर किया जाए, उस पर डिटेल में चर्चा हुई। डिटेल में चर्चा होने के पश्चात सबसे पहली बात तो ये है कि जो इनका एक 4 पॉइंट्स था, उसका लबोलबाब ये था कि कोई भी एक्शन FIR न हो
और अगर है तो वो विड्रॉ हो, वो चाहे दिल्ली पुलिस के द्वारा हुआ हो, चाहे वो बीजेपी रूल स्टेट्स में कहीं हुआ हो, तो वो एफआईआर की कॉपी भी इनको हम देंगे और उसको विड्रॉ करने की बात कोई भी एक्शन नहीं होगा। इस बात को सरकार ने स्वीकारा है जो प्रोटेस्टर्स के साथ प्रोटेस्ट के दौरान हुआ है। उसी तरीके से फ्यूचर में भी जो ऑर्गेनाइजर्स हैं और प्रोटेस्टर्स हैं उनका इस एक्टिविटी के लिए कोई भी उन पर आगे केस नहीं होगा, इस बात को हम लोगों ने माना है। Am I करेक्ट? दूसरी बात जो कही गई है वो ये है कि कंपनसेशन के बारे में। तो कंपनसेशन के बारे में सरकार ने बड़े स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहा है, हमारी भी सहानुभूति है, जान किसी बच्चे की जाए और उसके प्रति हम भी सहानुभूति रखते हैं और सरकार, प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी अत्यंत सहानुभूति के साथ हम सब लोगों ने कहा है कि ऑनरेबल कंपनसेशन अकॉर्डिंग टू द रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस व्हाटएवर मैक्सिमम विल बी पॉसिबल दैट विल बी गिवन टू देम। और उसी तरीके से ये जो 5 पॉइंट चार्टर है जो आपने मुझे परसों दिया, कल दिया था, उस 5 पॉइंट चार्टर पे हमारा कहना ये है जो एजुकेशन के एग्जामिनेशंस के रिफॉर्म्स के से जुड़ा हुआ है उसके बारे में हमारा ये कहना है कि हम एजुकेशन के एग्जामिनेशन के रिफॉर्म्स के लिए जो आपका चार्टर है उस पर हम गहन चिंतन भी करेंगे और आपके डेलीगेशन के साथ बातचीत करके जो कुछ भी हम डेलिब्रेट कर सकेंगे वो हम करने का प्रयास करेंगे। तो ये इनकी डिमांड्स थी। मेरे ख्याल से इन्होंने जो डिमांड्स रखी थी उन सबको सरकार ने सहानुभूतिपूर्वक माना भी है और एक्सेप्ट भी किया है। मेरा निवेदन है कि आप सबसे कि हमारे जो आंदोलन करने वाले हैं वो अपने एजिटेशन को विड्रॉ करें और पीसफुली हम सब लोग आगे बढ़े, ऐसा मेरा निवेदन है।
On that note, the Cockroach Janata Party declares that we withdraw the agitation in good faith and understanding that the agreed upon terms will be executed within the agreed upon timelines.
With immediate effect. With immediate effect बोलते हैं. With immediate effect.
हम तमाम मांगे जो हमारी थी वो मान ली गई है, तो हम इमीडिएट इफेक्ट से प्रोटेस्टर से रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि आप विड्रॉ करें, पीसफुली अपने घर वापस जाएं और आगे की जो भी हमारी रणनीति होगी या बातचीत होगी उससे हम आपको अवगत कराएंगे। लेकिन प्रोटेस्टर से हम रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि इमीडिएट इफेक्ट से आप विड्रॉ करें, हमारी मांगे जो है वो मान लीजिए।
सरकारी छात्र आप भी मांग मानेंगे?
चलो हो गया, आप सारी बातें बता दी, हो गया।
Well, that's the big breaking news there. Cockroach Janata Party has decided to withdraw its agitation, end the Jantar Mantar protest with immediate effect after their demands that were raised with the government. All of them have been agreed upon. The first and the foremost and the non-negotiable one was the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. That has already been done. Their demands to quash FIRs against protesters has also been agreed upon, is what both CJP and the government came out and confirmed. There are negotiations on as to how much compensation could be accorded to the families of the students that died by suicide during this NEET agitation and after the paper leak. And a 5-point charter for education reforms is what the CJP has demanded, over which the government will be in negotiations with CJP and all of the stakeholders that are involved. So with immediate effect, that protest is going to end. We will hopefully see people and students that had gathered at Jantar Mantar to eventually disperse in a peaceful manner. At least that's the appeal that has come in from the CJP as well. Aman joins us, getting us more perspective on this. Aman, there were 5 demands that were made by the CJP. The government has agreed to all of them, one in principle.
Well, absolutely, Poonam, and you can see those scenes on our screens where Mr. JP Nadda is shaking hands with the CJP representatives, Mr. Jitendra Singh also, so that handshake signifies, I would say, the settlement, the compromise. CJP very clearly saying that they are going to withdraw the agitation. So we could see Jantar Mantar being emptied out of these protesters. Maybe by tomorrow, today may be a day of celebration for them at the Jantar Mantar. But right now, CJP has clearly said they are withdrawing their agitation. And this has been achieved because of the three major demands of the CJP. Number one, the resignation of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has been done. This happened before this crucial meeting between the CJP and the government. So the government going into this meeting with this clear olive branch that, look, that was a non-negotiable. We have agreed to the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Number two, they wanted the withdrawal of cases against protesters and no coercive action against these protesters in the near future also against CJP's leadership. That also the government has in principle agreed that the FIRs which have been lodged, about 13 to 14 FIRs are there, they will be withdrawn against the protesters. That's again a big demand which the protesters had made, because they didn't want the students' career also to be spoiled, because if you face legal cases, you may not get admissions in universities and colleges going ahead. So the government agreeing to that as well. Number third big demand was rupees 1 crore compensation for the families of the nearly 24 victims, suicide victims due to the NEET leak case. The government has in principle agreed to that as well. The appropriate amount, the CJP there said, will be announced by the government while in a written assurance by Tuesday. So in a way, all the three major demands of the CJP have been met by the government. Besides that, they also wanted reforms in the education system. They had a 5-point charter. The government has already promised them that, a cabinet has already passed an amendment bill to a 2024 existing law that will be coming to Parliament next week, and hopefully will be passed if the opposition cooperates with the government in running the House. So I think the government has virtually accepted nearly all demands of the CJP, and this also shows, as we were earlier explaining when Manoj Gupta, our internal security editor, gave that information, what government sources have been very clearly saying that, we will listen to the original stakeholders of this particular protest, that is the CJP and the students. We will not succumb to the opposition, and that is why the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is also both a political and an administrative move, because the government didn't want, there is a moral responsibility of the government, there's a moral oversight responsibility of the minister as well, and that is what I think the government has now finally conceded. The Prime Minister said in his video address as well that the government is pained. He himself was pained by the, students and their parents had to go through, lakhs of them, during the NEET exam, and that is why the government is bringing systemic changes to the entire system. So the first three demands have been met. The five demands that they want about education reforms will be addressed in a major way when the bill comes to the Parliament next week.
Right, Aman, thank you so much for putting that in perspective for us. GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP continues to be with us on this broadcast. And GVL, as far as the demands of the CJP are concerned, now we know that all of them seem to have been agreed upon, some in principle, some already done. Do you now think that this agitation is done and dusted, gone for good? Sir, I believe you're on mute. If you could just unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think this is the end of this agitation, and government has shown utmost, I would say, responsiveness, alacrity to ensure that the youth is not further, I think, inconvenienced, and no further inconvenience is caused to them. Their careers are not going to be disturbed. So government has listened to the voice of the youth. And I think at the end of the story, I think at the end of the press conference, you have seen representatives of the youth stating that they are ending this, they're calling for an end of this. And there is a roadmap that has clearly been discussed. The charter of demands, what they call is a reform for reforms, will be considered by the government, will be examined and considered wherever possible. That's what the minister carefully stated. And I think all is well that ends well. So I think by evening, I don't think tomorrow, in the next couple of hours, I expect, because many of these students and youth have been there for a long time or visiting there regularly. So I think in a matter of maybe a couple of hours, I think you will see all the protesters leaving the venue.
Nishant Anand, so the agitation has ended. CJP has called it off, asked people to peacefully leave. So that part of, or that aspect of it has been dealt with. Will now the Parliament function?
See, yes, as I said, Parliament now must hold a full, meaningful debate on the crisis facing on India youth so that this kind of protest never happens again. And the mass police brutality needs to be answered. At the very least, Modi ji owes the nation and especially the young people who were beaten and humiliated on the streets of Delhi an unconditional apology. He should show the decency to seek it. The real face is visible on the streets and it is visible on the parliament. We have said it for the last 7 days. Now they have taken a step. It's a positive step, but all these answers need to be given in the parliament. Why was the lathi was charged? Why the tear gas was done? Why the people were stopped and prevent from protesting?
Well, we do hope that the parliament functions so that the people of this country can also get the answers that we've been waiting for. Unfortunately, last week was a complete washout. Hopefully, better sense prevails this coming week. But I have to leave it at that. I thank you both gentlemen for joining us here and sharing your perspective. On that note, it's time for a quick break here on this edition. But our rolling coverage here on CNN News 18 will continue.
Quickly come back to you, but I'm going to go through skim through the copy of that 2-page letter which has been released by Dharmendra Pradhan himself. No longer the Education Minister, he stepped down as an Education Minister. It's a 2-page emotive letter. I'm just going to read out a couple of lines from it, a very emotive letter. He says, मैं पिछले 4 दशकों से अधिक समय से छात्र, शिक्षक और शिक्षा सुधार के लिए समर्पित रहा हूँ. मेरा सदैव यही विश्वास रहा है कि एक सशक्त, समावेशी और दूरदर्शी शिक्षा व्यवस्था ही सशक्त राष्ट्र के आधारशिला होती है. And then he goes down. We're just going to scroll down and basically he talks about the fact of how the NEET UG की परीक्षा में सामने आई अनियमितता पाई गई. That is the irregularities which were found in the NEET UG exams of 3rd May 2026, and this was taken immediate cognizance of. The entire investigation was put to the CBI. CBI की जांच को सौंपा गया और परीक्षा को रद्द किया गया. So this is a computer-based test, the new mode which was brought in, and then he talks about the entire government approach. So basically what he's saying in this 2-page letter is the steps which have been taken by the government to ensure that there's a change in the examination system. No time was wasted, guilty were arrested, more steps are being taken. This is a 2-page letter which has been put out by Dharmendra Pradhan. Now Payal, everyone says that no one resigns, but look, would you say in the last 2 to 3 days, the timing is also very significant. Not just the CJP government talks, but also the big bill coming up on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to go across to Arunima. Would you say that the timing is significant, coming just a couple of hours, maybe an hour or so before the CJP government talks which were supposed to take place, but more importantly, the Monday morning possibility of the introduction of the big bill?
BJP government talks were supposed to be at 3 o'clock, but it has been delayed by at least an hour. And that's because CJP, even yesterday, when they left the Constitution Club, they made it a point to say that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is non-negotiable. And once they went back to Jantar Mantar, in repeated media and social media posts and interviews, they kept reiterating that there's no point talking to the government if they're not going to be flexible on the issue of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So this kind of a maximalist position that, the CJP had taken, that the student protesters had taken, I think that finally forced Dharmendra Pradhan's hand. He says it very categorically in that letter, ये मेरे व्यक्तिगत प्रतिष्ठा का सवाल नहीं है. This is not a question about my personal interest or my ego. It is about the larger interest of the student community. And if it is my resignation which is going to ensure that they go back to the classrooms, they go back to the university, then so be it. But the CJP also will have to now wait and see when they come back at 4 o'clock to the negotiating table with the government. Will they walk the talk?
बहनों को जिन्होंने ये मुद्दा उठाया सबसे पहले, और जो वॉलंटियर्स जिन्होंने उनका साथ निभाया, जो देश भर से छात्र और युवक और बड़े बूढ़े लोकतंत्र के लिए खड़े हुए, उन सब का सम्मान करता हूं मैं. और सबसे बड़ी बात कि जिस तरह से उन्होंने शांति बनाए रखा जहां ये प्रदर्शन हो रहे थे. कुछ जगहों पे दुर्भाग्य है कि छुटपुट घटनाएं भी देखी. मुझे उम्मीद है कि इस शांति को हम बनाए रखें और कहीं भी कोई गलत बात नहीं होगी. आगे भी ये जो शक्ति है लोकतंत्र की, वो हमारी शांति से हुई है, ना कि हमारे बाजुओं के बल से, उसके मुकाबले तो आपके बंदूकें हैं, मगर जो शांति की हमने ताकत दिखाए उसके मुकाबले कोई हथियार नहीं है, तो उसे बनाए रखें। अब जब आप महसूस कर रहे हैं कि आपकी जीत हुई, तो विजय में विनम्रता सबसे बड़ी बात है, वही आपके चरित्र को प्रदर्शित करता है, परिभाषित करता है। तो अब जब इस आंदोलन को ज़रूरत पड़े और कुछ आगे लेना हो या फिर अभी रोकना हो, जो भी करें बहुत ही शांति से करें। मैं ये उम्मीद करता हूँ कि एक तरफ जब जवाबदेही हमें मिली इस बार की, तो अब सुधार पर काम करने की ज़रूरत है। केवल एक इस्तीफा से, रेजिग्नेशन से राष्ट्र नहीं बनता है। तो शिक्षा में सुधार हो, इस पर भी आगे काम हो। मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है जिस उदारता से सरकार ने ये कदम ली है, वो इसमें अब सुधार के कार्यों में भी जुड़ेगी। सुधार सिर्फ शिक्षा में नहीं बल्कि शासन में भी मेरी उम्मीद है कि अब से देश चलाने का।
Dharmendra Pradhan has stepped down. Mr. Kapil Sibal here with me. So your first thoughts?
No, I have no thoughts. My only thoughts are, thank God that some sense has prevailed, that a man who is responsible indirectly for injuries to so many people, for the fast of 23 days of people, for girls being attacked, for people lying in hospital, it's a sense of relief that thank God somebody has realized. But this is not a voluntary resignation. This is only symbolic for the simple reason that the Prime Minister realized that if this doesn't happen, then his government is in danger. Because this agitation was not limited to Jantar Mantar. It is in the minds and hearts of every young person in this country. They are sick of this, the way this government is functioning since 2014.
Is that why you think this resignation came? Because it was no longer limited to Jantar Mantar, no longer limited to social media in one city alone?
Absolutely. Parents were involved. Parents were coming from their homes. There's one young man in London who sent his parents here to say, look, please get a lathi charge here so I'll be happy. The parents came here from outside of the country, and agitations were taking place in cities, in Australia and Canada and other places. So obviously the government was worried, because if this spreads like that, they won't be able to handle it.
But what now? Will the protesters now go back home? Will Parliament function?
Well, you see, Parliament will function or not function is for the Parliament to decide. I'm an independent member of Parliament. I don't want to get involved in that. Whatever is decided by Parliament is acceptable. The question is not that. Parliament may function, but what change? If there is one Dharmendra Pradhan that is gone, there will be another Dharmendra Pradhan who will come. No. What is the structural change that's going to take place in the education sector? Nobody knows, and nobody will know, because nobody cares. This government doesn't care about that. This government will continue with its agenda of Vande Mataram, of Hindu-Muslim, dividing, get the election commission, cancel voters lists, add people, win elections. That's all that they're concerned with. That's all that they have done since 2014.
So let me just take forward what you just said. A lot of people are saying, how will one Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation change or solve the
I'm
malaise?
saying that myself.
Yes.
Yes.
So do you think CJP or the student protesters erred by only focusing on one man?
No, not at all. They have been able to show the strength of the youth. The non-political character of this movement has demonstrated that governments can fall if you don't listen to the voice of the people.
You are not satisfied with the measures that the Prime Minister announced? You don't think they can do it? Fast-track court, for example?
Meaningless. Fast-track court for those who were responsible for the leaks in NEET. What about fast-track courts for those who are responsible for the injuries to our students? What about the apology of the Home Minister? Because he's responsible for that. Dharmendra Pradhan is not responsible for that. He is the one who allowed excess force to be used. The children had no stones. The children had no sticks with them. The children were not armed. Why was force used? And why were girls being treated in this fashion? Why were their clothes torn?
Any advice for those young girls and boys who have been sleeping on the streets of Jantar Mantar?
Carry on. The Cockroach Janata Party is not an idea. It's a movement. It's a reality. Take it forward.
Thank you so much.
Peacefully.
Peacefully. That's a critical point there. Carry forward your movement, but peacefully. Mr. Kapil Sibal there saying that we'll have to wait and see. Parliamentarians will decide what course the MPs take come Monday. With Ravi Ranjan, this is Arunima.
quickly come back to you, but I'm going to go through skim through the copy of that two-page letter which has been released by Dharmendra Pradhan himself. No longer the Education Minister, he stepped down as an Education Minister. It's a two-page emotive letter. I'm just going to read out a couple of lines from it, a very emotive letter. He says, मैं पिछले 4 दशकों से अधिक समय से छात्र, शिक्षक और शिक्षा सुधार के लिए समर्पित रहा हूं। मेरा सदैव यही विश्वास रहा है कि एक सशक्त, समावेशी और दूरदर्शी शिक्षा व्यवस्था ही सशक्त राष्ट्र के आधारशिला होती है. And then he goes down. We are just going to scroll down and basically he talks about the fact of how the NEET UG की परीक्षा में सामने आई अनियमितता पाई गई. That is the irregularities which were found in the NEET UG exams of 3rd May 2026, and this was taken immediate cognizance of. The entire investigation was put to the CBI. CBI की जांच को सौंपा गया और परीक्षा को रद्द किया गया. So this is a computer-based test, the new mode which was brought in, and then he talks about the entire government approach. So basically what he's saying in this two-page letter is the steps which have been taken by the government to ensure that there's a change in the examination system. No time was wasted, guilty were arrested, more steps are being taken. This is a two-page letter which has been put out by Dharmendra Pradhan. Now Payal, everyone says that no one resigns, but look, would you say in the last 2 to 3 days, the timing is also very significant. Not just the CJP government talks, but also the big bill coming up on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to go across to Arunima. Would you say that the timing is significant, coming just a couple of hours, maybe an hour or so before the CJP government talks which were supposed to take place, but more importantly, the Monday morning possibility of the introduction of the big bill?
BJP government talks were supposed to be at 3 o'clock, but it has been delayed by at least an hour. And that's because CJP, even yesterday, when they left the Constitution Club, they made it a point to say that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is non-negotiable. And once they went back to Jantar Mantar, in repeated media and social media posts and interviews, they kept reiterating that there's no point talking to the government if they're not going to be flexible on the issue of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So this kind of a maximalist position that, the CJP had taken, that the student protesters had taken, I think that finally forced Dharmendra Pradhan's hand. He says it very categorically in that letter, ये मेरे व्यक्तिगत प्रतिष्ठा का सवाल नहीं है. This is not a question about my personal interest or my ego. It is about the larger interest of the student community. And if it is my resignation which is going to ensure that they go back to the classrooms, they go back to the university, then so be it. But the CJP also will have to now wait and see when they come back at 4 o'clock to the negotiating table with the government. Will they walk the talk and withdraw the protest? If they keep moving the goalpost, because yesterday they said we have 3 demands, 2 of which the government is very positive on. The third was Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. So now that big, obstruction has been removed, will CJP walk the talk? Will we see an announcement from
Arunima, I'm sorry to interrupt you over here. We are getting the first Congress reaction. Rashid Alvi is now joining. Quickly come back to you, but I'm going to go through skim through the copy of that two-page letter which has been released by Dharmendra Pradhan himself. No longer the Education Minister, he stepped down as an Education Minister. It's a two-page emotive letter. I'm just going to read out a couple of lines from it, a very emotive letter. He says, मैं पिछले 4 दशकों से अधिक first reactions to the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan.
I repeat what Sonam has already tweeted, that it's a victory of direct grassroots democracy and of peace and perseverance. It is just, but we should remember that this is just the first step. This is a symbolic, victory to move to the larger goal and agenda of the actual educational reform, which will be the bedrock of the future. So yes, of course, it's a huge victory, because there was a tremendous moral pressure that the movement created within the government. If they hadn't done it, they would have lost serious credibility. So hats off to this generation who, with their resilience and perseverance, held the fort, held the ground, and did not step back, and continued it till this was done. Extremely welcome step. And now we have to move to the next step of reforming and making the education system in India the best in the world. Thank you.
Working out with a bill on that, but before I ask you about that, do you think now the protest should be called up, the students go back home, go back to studies? Do you think this is the time when those protests should be called off at the Jantar Mantar?
So this decision has to be taken jointly, and we will regroup, meet up, and we shall come back to you on this.
Okay, and I'm sure one last question. You know that a bill is coming up on Monday, post-spike in Parliament, to make it more and more stringent. You think all political parties need to sink their differences and come together to ensure the quick passage of this bill?
Yeah, I have again and again in all my interviews and articles everywhere, I have said that this movement has gone beyond political parties and their agendas. It is about reforms, not just of the education system, but all the other systems which are rotten to the core. So political parties have become, not inconsequential. Now the movement has moved to the grassroots, and I think that it's an opportunity for all the political parties to look afresh to build a new India.
So it's not, the political party should not take credit?
I think, can we grow up and mature from taking credit to actually selflessly working for the nation? I think that's what the kids have shown. Nobody is here to take credit. I think it's a lesson for the political parties and for everybody who wants to take credit. And it's only focused on credit, that for once, for heaven's sake, let's move beyond credits and vote banks and party politics to the larger good of nation building.
Well, that's the big breaking news there. Cockroach Janata Party has decided to withdraw its agitation, end the Jantar Mantar protest with immediate effect after their demands that were raised with the government. All of them have been agreed upon. The first and the foremost and the non-negotiable one was the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. That has already been done. Their demands to quash FIRs against protesters has also been agreed upon, is what both CJP and the government came out and confirmed. There are negotiations on as to how much compensation could be accorded to the families of the students that died by suicide during this NEET agitation and after the paper leak. And a 5-point charter for education reforms is what the CJP has demanded, over which the government will be in negotiations with CJP and all of the stakeholders that are involved. So with immediate effect, that protest is going to end. We will hopefully see people and students that had gathered at Jantar Mantar to eventually disperse in a peaceful manner. At least that's the appeal that has come in from the CJP as well. Aman joins us, getting us more perspective on this. Aman, there were 5 demands that were made by the CJP. The government has agreed to all of them, one in principle.
Well, absolutely, Poonam, and you can see those scenes on our screens where Mr. JP Nadda is shaking hands with the CJP's representatives, Mr. Jitendra Singh also. So that handshake signifies, I would say, the settlement, the compromise. CJP very clearly saying that they are going to withdraw the agitation. So we could see Jantar Mantar being emptied out of these protesters. Maybe by tomorrow, today may be a day of celebration for them at the Jantar Mantar. But right now, CJP has clearly said they are withdrawing their agitation. And this has been achieved because of the 3 major demands of the CJP. Number 1, the resignation of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has been done. This happened before this crucial meeting between the CJP and the government. So the government going into this meeting with this clear olive branch that, look, that was a non-negotiable. We have agreed to the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Number 2, they wanted the withdrawal of cases against protesters and no coercive action against these protesters in the near future also against CJP's leadership. That also the government has in principle agreed that the FIRs which have been lodged, about 13 to 14 FIRs are there, they will be withdrawn against the protesters. That's again a big demand which the protesters had made, because they didn't want the students' career also to be spoiled, because if you face legal cases, you may not get admissions in universities and colleges going ahead. So the government agreeing to that as well. Third big demand was ₹1 crore compensation for the families of the nearly 24 victims, suicide victims due to the NEET leak case. The government has in principle agreed to that as well. The appropriate amount, the CJP there said, will be announced by the government while in a written assurance by Tuesday. So in a way, all the three major demands of the CJP have been met by the government. Besides that, they also wanted reforms in the education system. They had a 5-point charter. The government has already promised them that, a cabinet has already...
Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Shivani Gupta. An important day playing out as far as the ongoing unrest in the national capital over the issue of NEET paper leak is concerned. Dharmendra Pradhan resigned this afternoon and post another meeting of CJP and the government. The agitation at Jantar Mantar has now been called off. Addressing a joint press briefing, CJP urged all remaining protesters to now head home. To diffuse the situation, Union Minister JP Nadda has assured students that FIRs against protesters will be withdrawn and compensation will be agreed upon for students who committed suicides. All eyes now on Parliament on Monday when government tables amendment to the existing bill to strengthen the provisions against those guilty in leaks.
Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is a huge step in rebuilding our education system. It's a symbolic step because he was a symbol, but it is still a big step. And I want to congratulate every single student, every single youngster who came out on the streets and fought for democracy, fought for the future of this country, and defended the Constitution. I'm proud of you. Well done. It's also a signal to other parts of society, farmers, laborers, poor people, anybody who this regime is attacking and oppressing. There is wisdom and courage in standing up. Daro mat, let's get rid of this regime.
Let's go across to Radhika Khera, spokesperson of the BJP, now joining us. Radhika, the government having to come to terms with the demands that have been raised from day one. One would say better late than never, because the focus was on ending this unrest that was ongoing, and it was becoming clear that this was not going to end unless something gives.
Shivani, our government is for the people, of the people, and by the people. And we have been elected by the people, and if they are unhappy with something, it is our duty as their elected representative to fulfill every demand, which is why we are here working for them. हम दिन रात उन्हीं के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, इस जनता के ही सेवक हैं. तो yes, it took a little time, but at the end of the day, the demands जो थी, वो हमने fulfill करी. But with this entire protest coming to the end, to an end, जब ये देख रहे हैं these visuals on your screen, कि हाथ मिला रहे हैं हमारी सरकार के representatives and CJP के representatives, this has actually made the Vipaksh, the Indi Thakbandhan and Rahul Gandhi once again berozgar. If you heard, when they, after ending the Andolan, two things the CJP voice said. This was not a revolution. This was not a radicalization. We had three demands. We were here for the students. Our demands were related to the students and nothing else. But what we also saw, and you have covered it, we saw how journalists were attacked, how even after at Jantar Mantar, when the CJP announced that the process has come to an end and the agitation has come to an end, and that everyone should go home, and that the government has agreed to the demands, and that the metro stations have been opened, tab bhi wahan se patthar chalaya gaya tha. So there were people who had entered this entire protest who were trying to make India, Bangladesh and Nepal and Sri Lanka, which is what was actually the opposition that was wanting. That has failed today. Yes, we have agreed to the demands of the students. I will reiterate again that we are a government of the people, by the people, of the people. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कल अपने वीडियो में भी कहा, परसों भी कहा कि आपने जो कहा वो संवाद, आपके आइडियाज मेरे पास आए. What the nation, what the students wanted, we've given that to them. Yes, and now it's time for the opposition to show that they are responsible opposition, and I hope on Monday they attend Parliament, do not create another drama, do not try to take this elsewhere. What was demanded by the students has been fulfilled, and now they must come together to fulfill what the students want: a stricter law, stricter action that should be taken, and that this does not stop just as at the resignation, which I said.
All right,
yesterday on your show.
we'll come to that in just a bit. You know, you made an interesting point about how CJP, after the briefing with the government, said this was not a revolution or this was not radicalization. I think it's a welcome statement from them, because from the stage at Jantar Mantar, we have heard different things. And I'm not talking about just other people who had lent support, but even from CJP itself, till this afternoon, we were hearing very different things. We had even heard a statement yesterday that even if Dharmendra Pradhan was to quit, their revolution was not going to end. So if today they are suggesting that no, there is no point in an ongoing confrontation, I think that's a welcome thing. Neeja Chaudhary, senior journalist, is also joining us, and I think I have with me Chirag Sethi, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Neeja ma'am, your first thoughts. Is this a humbling of the government today?
It is a climb down by the government. I would say Der aaye durust aaye. They could have reached out to them 2 weeks earlier. It might have diffused the situation then more easily. It is now escalated. The government would naturally be worried. You know, big rallies were planned tomorrow in different parts of the country. It wasn't just in Delhi. In Delhi alone, central Delhi, 18 metro stations have been closed. So this kind of a situation was not a happy one. I would say, having de-escalated it, it's a win-win situation for everybody. Because the government has managed now to defuse it, and they will course correct, and they're talking about bringing a law, and I hope also not just a law to punish the NEET cheaters, but also important in reforms in our education and examination system. It is a victory also. It's a win-win, huge win-win for the young people who led that protest, because, you know, they have learned at this age, which is a very important thing to internalize, that it is possible to bring change through democratic means in India. Very important, because these are the potential politicians of the future. They are the future rulers. So it's a very important thing to happen. And for the opposition also, it will give them heart. We can demoralize opposition, that things can change through these means. So I think our democracy has gained, and as I say, it's a win-win for everybody.
But since you brought up the opposition, is it also not a lesson for the opposition that actually there are other ways in holding government to account, getting your demands heard? And I don't mean dharna alone, because obviously elected representatives of recognized parties are not expected to do this, but there are other ways than what they have been employing.
Look, they also sat on a dharna. You see, they didn't associate to begin with
this one.
With the protest at Jantar Mantar. They came into the act when Sonam Wangchuk was whisked away to hospital. Then they came into the act when there was lathi charge. And you know, we mustn't forget that strong arm methods actually took the issue and the police into middle class homes of India. And I think the government would have worried about that. The government is very quick. BJP is very quick to course correct. And I hope it will go beyond the course correction. It will bring in meaningful reform. This is a rare opportunity in the life of the country.
Okay, Radhika, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Sulaiman Mohammad Khan of Congress is also with us. But Chirag, I'll give you the stage first. Now the onus also is on the opposition parties to come forward, take this momentum forward, but in a constructive way, because even CJP has bought the assurances by the government. They have not been beyond a point standoffish to say, no, you do this first, do this first, do this first, and only then we'll listen to you. They have also agreed to a roadmap. Time must be allowed, just like Sonam Wangchuk said 2 days ago. Will opposition also come on board now?
See, opposition's main demand was the resignation of the Education Minister, which I think has done. So I think this is the start of accountability first. The government, which was not accountable for the last 12 years, has at least started with the accountability. So the NEET reforms or the Radhakrishnan, the Radhakrishnan suggestions, committee suggestions, should now be implemented. The whole idea is the whole industry that is revolving around paper leaks. 152 paper leaks. Now there has to be some structure where the students who are going for the exam should feel safe and secure that my exam will not get leaked. My seat will not be sold to Adhanna Seth. My education, my time that has gone in should be fruitful to my future. Now the government has agreed, at least the Dharmendra Pradhanji's resignation has been taken. So this is the first fruitful step, but there are a lot of things that needs to be done now. There are a lot of
but will you allow Parliament to function? Will you come forward together with the government to offer constructive solutions or not?
Yes, we are always giving solutions. It's just that the government never wants to take it. The first solution we gave that please fire the Education Minister.
Let's talk about what can happen from next week now, Chirag. Don't give me what has happened.
Okay, let's look at the first thing. What is the Radhakrishnan Commission report says? The first thing was computer-based testing. Let's get the computer-based testing in place. Let's get a slot-wise exams for NEET. Let's get the question bank ready. All those things.
Computer-based testing has actually already been announced after the NEET paper leak happened. So from next year, it is bound to happen. Also, some reports suggest, one second, also some reports suggest that actually the government was in favor of CBT this time around too. But there are other bodies that were also consulted that did not want to go ahead with it. So listen, we've got many cogs in the wheel.
Shivani.
They all need to come together. Yes, Radhika.
Shivani, I have a question. We've led by example. Is the Aam Aadmi Party going to get their education minister to resign now? We've seen what is happening in Punjab. Exam after exam, and we've seen jo barbarta police kar rahi hai. Sir, let me complete my question. You can answer after me. Are you going to follow suit and bring a reform? Are you now who are led the we all know that cockroach is aap logo ki janak, and you should take credit for that now because it is a creation of your andolan or whatever. But when are you also going to follow suit and take resignation of your education minister?
Okay, let him respond now. Let him respond, please.
Punjab every day.
Let him respond now.
Sure. Whenever there is a paper leak that's going to happen in Punjab, we will take action. There is no paper leak that has happened in Punjab first. Okay.
Cheating hui hai. Your officers
मैडम चीटिंग स्टार्ट होने से पहले विजिलेंस की टीम वहां चली गई और उन्होंने पकड़ लिया. हमने चीटिंग नहीं होने दी. ये फर्क है. नीट का एग्जाम टेलीग्राम ऐप पे आ गया था. Can you authenticate the video? Can you authenticate? Can you authenticate? No.
Both of you, I have to step in because we will park this. We will take this up separately. I want to have a debate which is more about moving forward from next week, because Suleiman Khan, there is also all eyes on Parliament. The government is working on a war footing now. You can criticize it for not doing it earlier. It is doing it now. The opposition hopefully will come together, let Parliament function, pass the bill which is asking for greater stringent provisions, and move on from there.
Government is not working on a war front. It has been forced to do something which it was duty bound to do initially when these paper leaks have done. But this, arrogance-filled, ego-filled, dictatorial attitude and mindset government and its leader Narendra Modi has to bend the knee before the people of the country, before the youth of the country, before Gen Z. Finally, he has to bend the knee. This arrogance-filled and, dictatorial mindset-filled government has to finally, bow down. And that is the victory of a democratic protest. We have been telling this for so long. We have a full program of Chhatro Ki
I'm getting these visuals of Rahul Gandhi now all set to address the press conference that he has called. So, Suleiman, you can, I think, I'll just interrupt you. Let's just cut to Rahul Gandhi now and listen into what the leader of opposition has to say. Because it will be interesting on what happens, what the mind of the Congress is for next week as well.
सबसे पहले ये जो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं, इनकी विक्ट्री है, इनकी जीत है, जो हिंदुस्तान का फ्यूचर है. एजुकेशन सिस्टम जो हमारी शान हुआ करती थी, पूरी दुनिया में एक्नॉलेज था कि हिंदुस्तान का एजुकेशन सिस्टम बहुत बढ़िया है, उस पर सालों से आक्रमण हो रहा है, उसको कैप्चर किया जा रहा है, उसको प्राइवेटाइज किया जा रहा है, उस पर रिएक्शन था। बेरोजगारी पर रिएक्शन था, और जो हिंदुस्तान का जो आज हालत है, जो सिचुएशन है, उस पर रिएक्शन था। प्रधान एक सिंबल है, करप्शन का सिंबल, एजुकेशन सिस्टम के डिस्ट्रक्शन का सिंबल, इनकॉम्पिटेंस का सिंबल।